Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Here to bring in part 28 of What If Sonic and his friends were in Remnant. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 53, Decimation. Blake sat on the rooftop of her home, looking up towards the night sky, the stars and shattered moon shining brightly over Menagerie. Despite the calmness of the night, Blake couldn't help but feel uneasy as she anxiously rubbed her arm, almost like she was just waiting for the storm and was sitting in the calm before it. "What's got you so anxious?" Sun asked, climbing up onto the roof to join her with Charmy right beside him. "What are you two doing up here?" Blake questioned. "Vector and Espio are talking with your dad about strategy and all that boring stuff, and since we're not all that into it," Charmy began. "We decided to ditch it and find you," Sun finished. "Why does that not surprise me?" Blake rolled her eyes. "You could learn a thing or two from that sort of thing, Sun. You are the leader of a team." I led my own way." Sun shrugged. "But seriously, what's going on with you? That jerk Adam and his buddies are locked up, you reconnected with an old friend, and you managed to get all of Menagerie behind you and join the fight. You should be celebrating." "Yeah, time to party," Charmy added as he flew around the pair excitably. "Wahoo! You were eavesdropping on my last call, so you should know why I'm feeling uneasy," Blake said seriously, looking with glares at them. "Half my team has been kidnapped, my friends have no clue where they are, and my partner almost had a total breakdown because of all the issues she has with her family that don't seem to be anywhere close to resolving. So yeah, I'm anxious. I'm very worried for my friends, why wouldn't I be?" Sun and Charmy both winced, realizing that was all indeed true. Okay, yeah, that does sound a bit insensitive," Sun admitted. "But Sonic's looking for them," Charmy said. "And knowing him, he can find your friends in no time." Blake calmed down somewhat as she knew that much was true. "I know. I just wish there was something else I can do. You did manage to talk Yang down a little bit, and from the sound of it, she kinda needed that," Sun said as he sat down next to her. "Sure, it didn't solve everything, but it's still something. Maybe, but that's not all." Blake looked up to the sky again. "Looking back on it now, RWBY and I didn't really connect as much with each other as we probably should have. Sure, we talked on occasion, and I trusted her to have my back in a fight, but that was pretty much it. Even after I opened up a bit, there wasn't really much there. Can you really call that a friend? Or just a teammate? So, you're saying you and RWBY aren't friends?" Charmy asked, looking confused. "Not as close as we should be," Blake confessed, looking down before scoffing to herself. "Some teammate I turned out to be." Sun and Charmy both looked to each other with concern before the former spoke. "Well, when they find her, and they will, you'll have your chance to make it up to her. You think you weren't close enough before, then find a way to get close. Talk to her, hang out, have some fun, just do something. Yeah, like maybe play some games," Charmy added. "Or go out on a job fighting bad guys together. Nothing says making new friends like beating up bad people." Blake did smile slightly at that. "How do you two do that? How do you just skip over all the bad stuff? How do you forget about it and just move forward? I grew up in Vacuo and things can change there at any minute," Sun explained. "And if living there has taught me anything, is that you don't have time to get caught up in the past. Sure, some things do stick with ya, but you can only go forward. No sense in looking back. And I always try to see the bright side of things," Charmy added. "Vector and Espio are always serious, thinking about what could go wrong on the job. Sounds like they're preparing, which isn't bad," Blake put in. "Yeah, and it's cool, but you need a little sunshine to brighten things up, or else it all just gets dull and gray," Charmy replied. "I know I might seem goofy and silly, but I do get serious if I need to." He put his fist to his palm for emphasis. "And if my friends are in trouble, I'll either fight alongside them, or find a way to make them smile. So come on, turn that frown of yours upside down." Charmy hung himself upside down in the air in front of Blake, which did earn a slight giggle from her. "Huh, gotcha, there's a smile," Sun pointed to her. Okay, message received." Blake tried to push them back. "Look, I'm sure what's going on is serious," Sun began. "But I'm also sure that there's plenty of people working to make things right and you're one of them. You've done a lot of good since coming back to your home, so give yourself some credit. He nudged her on the side. Blake gave a sigh as she smiled somewhat. It was nice to reconnect with her family again. She was even able to convince Ilya to leave and join her side. They even managed to lock up Adam and get all of Menagerie on her side. She was still worried for her teammates certainly, and knew she hadn't been that good of a friend to RWBY either, but she also knew Sonic and everyone were working to bring everyone back together. And when they do reunite, not only will they have the means to finally take the fight to Eggman and Salem, but she would try to find a way to reconnect with her teammates, especially her leader. Okay. See. Finally she lightens up. Sun fell back on the rooftop, his hands behind his head. Yep, I get the feeling things are only gonna get better from here. That's when the sound of thunder was heard across the sky, getting their attention. Huh, there's a storm coming? Charmy asked. There's aren't any clouds though. Blake stood up cautiously. The sounds of thunder were enough to draw the attention of most of the population of Kuokana, some even being awakened from their slumber as families left their small houses, including parents holding their infant children, or young children even looking out the windows. As crowds began to from all the gathering civilians, all eyes soon set up towards the shattered moon as a large pulsating black mass appeared out of nowhere in a bright purple flash. Everyone gasped as they saw what essentially looked like a black hole appearing in the middle of the sky, followed by the loudest clasp of thunder to echo across the settlement. This was enough to get Gira, Vector, Ilya, Espio, Kali, along with a pair of guards, outside as they stepped out of the house in surprise and confusion. What is that? Kali questioned. Vector. Espio. Charmy flew down to meet them with Blake and Sun jumping to the ground behind. Are you seeing this? We are, it looks almost like a black hole, Espio observed seriously. And I'm guessing that typically doesn't happen here, right? Vector asked Gira, to which he shook his head. No, it does not. The chieftain of Menagerie said seriously as he turned to all the two goads. Gather every member of the Menagerie Guard and be ready for anything. I have a bad feeling about this. Yes, sir. The both nodded as they ran to the town. Wait, it looks like something's coming out of it. Blake narrowed her eyes at the phenomena, drawing everyone's attention as they looked to see that something was indeed emerging. Two large masses emerged from the black sphere, their long metallic bows being visible first, alongside a small gathering of 100 smaller vessels. Within a minute, the full appearance of two Atlas flagships had revealed themselves, fully appearing from the giant portal, right before a bright light engulfed the black mass and it vanished with a literal blip in the sky. Already, the sight of an Atlesian airship was starting to make the people of Kuokana nervous and confused, and that was no exception at the Belladonna household. An Atlesian air fleet. Here, Ilya exclaimed. How? Atlas is supposed to be on the other side of the world. Blake was caught off guard herself. How did they get here so fast? We know they do not have teleportation technology. Espio said with grave seriousness. This leaves only one suspect in mind. He looked to his leader. Vector growled, coming to the same conclusion. Eggman. This caused Blake, her family, Ilya, and even Sun to look in surprise and even fear. Already Blake was getting deja vu for when Eggman attacked Beacon. Looks things are gonna get ugly. It wasn't just the hijacked Atlesian fleet however that emerged from the now closed portal. Flying just underneath one of the flagships was the Cyclone, piloted by Tails with Seal in the seat behind him, with Penny and Silver flying right beside him. Is everyone okay? Tails asked, including over the comms as to react the other members of their party. We read you, Tails. Blaze responded. Have we reached the other side? We have, Tails said as he looked out the window to see their new destination. We're definitely not in Atlas anymore. Judging by the terrain, it appears to be Menagerie. Seal observed. Menagerie? RWBY questioned over the comms. As in, Blake's home. What in the world would Starline gain from? Weiss' gasp was heard even on the other side of the comm channel. Oh gods. What is it? Silver questioned with even Penny looking in confusion. However, Tails and even Seal both reached the same conclusion as well as their faces went pale with horror. From his own personal vessel, Starline sat on the chair with an eager grin as he looked to his partner in crime who stood beside him. Arthur, if you would do the honors. Watts chuckled with amusement as he pulled out his scroll and pressed the right command, causing the screen to flash bright red. All the cannons and weapons aboard the two flagships sprang to life as they aimed downward. Their barrels glowed right before the energy blasts were shot downwards. Everyone on the ground in Kuokuana soon felt their hearts stop, their blood run cold, and their bodies to freeze solid as they saw a rain of bright light coming down towards and around them, right before it made contact, igniting multiple explosions across the coastline and surrounding area. Fire spread in waves across the surface as trees, sand, wooden structures, and even the faunas who inhabited them were all swept up in the waves of flame, taken before they could even begin screaming. Panic and terror dropped like an anvil as everyone who wasn't swept up in the immediate attack all ran for their lives, trying to find whatever shelter they could. Men, women, children, all of them tried to run as far and as fast as they could, evading the raining energy blasts that came down at them from above, as well as the resulting shockwaves and waves of flame that quickly spread around the entire coastline and perimeter of Kuokuana. Any that tried to flee the settlement would meet an unfortunate end, being swept up in the resulting flames and energy blasts as it seemed the ships were focusing their fire on the surrounding area rather than the heart of the settlement itself. But that made it no less horrifying. And that horror was felt in the sky as Tails, Seal, Silver, and Penny could only gaze at the invading attack from their spot above. As did the Chaotix, Sun, Elia, and the Belladonna family, who saw smoke and ash fly up into the air and fire spread around the city they called home. Blake's own eyes were wide like dinner plates, where even from the distance she was at, flames reflected in her eyes as she could hear the sounds of her people screaming in terror and agony. Without even thinking, Blake's legs moved on their own as she dashed into the town, breaking everyone out of their stupor. "Blake," Callie called to her daughter. "What the hell are we standing around here for?" Vector was the first to get his bearings. "Espio. Charmy. We gotta go. We got people to save." "Right." Espio got serious too. "Yeah, let's go." Charmy bounced and his team Chaotix dashed into the fire. "Wait for me." Even Sun ran forward. "A chieftain," Elia tried to speak to Gira. "You and Callie should help our daughter and save as many people as we can." Gira finished for her, looking to the chameleon Faunus with a deathly serious expression, surprising the girl. Elia looked past him to see Callie had the same steeled resolve as her husband. Elia then got serious herself as she nodded too. "Of course. Then let's go." Gira dashed forward alongside his wife with Elia right beside them. "What's going on out there?" RWBY questioned as she, Blaze, and Weiss were in the cargo hold of one of the flagships. And even there, they could hear the sounds of cannons firing from outside. Weiss could only look to Blaze in horror as every instinct in her body was telling her what was going on, but she desperately didn't want to believe it. Blaze, however, could only confirm it as she drew her sword levitating, setting it ablaze as she drove it into the wall where they heard the sounds coming from, no doubt that the outside was right behind that wall. Focusing her flames, Blaze carved a hole through the wall before kicking the metal out from it, allowing for her, Weiss, and RWBY to see it all. But they wished they hadn't as Weiss could only cover her mouth in terror and RWBY's face lost any and all color as they saw a menagerie being attacked. Already the coastline was completely on fire, with the flames spreading to the surrounding forests, with more energy blasts raining down to further spread the destruction and chaos. Even the normally cool Blaze could only look in dread. But the Fire Princess collected herself as she put her hands on the shoulders of the two girls, getting their attention. "We need to get down there. People need our help." RWBY clenched her fists tightly as she nodded. "All right, Weiss." Weiss was at a loss for words, as she couldn't take her eyes off the destruction that was unfolding before her. "Weiss!" RWBY exclaimed, causing Weiss to gasp and get her attention. "We're going in." Right. Weiss nodded. Almost on cue, the cyclone flew closer towards the hole with Penny and Silver right beside it. All of them, including Tails and Seal within the cyclone, all nodded to each other as Silver grabbed RWBY and Weiss with his psychokinesis and carried them alongside him, while Blaze jumped and allowed herself to be grabbed by Penny before they flew straight down. "It seems our little heroes have joined the party," Watts observed from the projection via Starline's warp topaz, showing RWBY, Silver, and their allies jumping into the fray. Cinder happened to step closer to the window, allowing her to see the destruction unfolding onto Menagerie and looked with a cold expression, despite the orange glow of the flames below. "Why Menagerie?" she inquired. "There are no relics or maidens here. It has no purpose." No purpose for Salem's mission, but there is a reason for all this. Starline replied. Unlike her, I do not destroy simply for the fun of it. Every action I take, no matter how cruel it may seem, is all for a purpose. All for a greater goal. To serve at the whims of that fat idiot. Watts commented internally before he happened to take a look backwards, to where Ix was still standing over Willow and Whitley alongside Team BRIR, and despite the huntsmen under their thrall and subject each having cold and unmoving expressions of their own, the mother and son of the Schnee family could only gaze in silent horror. Despite not having a clear view from their position, they already knew what was happening below. Why? Whitley muttered as sweat and tears poured down his face, just imagining all the pain and destruction. Why? I'll admit that this is a bit blunter than we would have liked, Watts confessed. I'm not like those fanatics in the Silver Bullet Brotherhood. This is but one step to a much larger goal that will reshape all of Remnant. And like any remodel, some things have to be broken down or even discarded. And Menagerie just happens to fall under that category. You're monsters, Willow cried herself. All of you, monsters. Keep quiet if you know what's good for you. Bianca warned, stepping in front of them. Would you like us down there too? She asked. No, Bianca. You and your team have done enough for today. Starline opened a portal via the warp topaz behind them. Step through and rest yourselves. I will call on you when your services are needed again. Understood, Doctor. Bianca nodded as she motioned for her team to step into the portal with her right behind them. She gave a small glance in the direction of the Schnees with a guilty look in her eyes. She had hoped she could grab them both quickly and dash into the portal. But since Starline was in control of it, he would catch them before she could make a move. Not to mention the pair of super-powered cyborgs in the same ship as her. She hated to admit it, but there was no way she could free the Schnees now. All she could do was hope a chance to free her team and get payback would present itself. Sorry, she thought, looking to the Schnees one last time before the portal closed with her and her team on the other side. Now then, Arthur, begin landing our forces. Starline instructed. Already on it, Watts revealed as he worked with his scroll. The drop ships have begun landing and deploying the Atlesian Knights while the Paladin units are being dropped off around the perimeter. No one is escaping this burning settlement. Excellent. Starline smiled. Once the Knights are on the ground, have the drop ships work to guard the one of the main vessels from the air. Prower will no doubt mount a counterattack in that plane of his. One of the flagships will remain here to continue bombarding the area, while the other will be sent deeper into the island before commencing bombardment there to draw out all the Grim. Is that necessary? Cinder questioned. With everything that's going on, the fear and terror will draw them in quickly enough. True, but we still want the pressure. Starline responded. The Little Rose and her current allies include a pair of individuals whose own powers can rival that of Sonic's and can no doubt turn this situation around quickly enough if they just deal with the machines first and then the Grim. But put both of them together, we'll force them to call the only other person who can turn the tide in their favor. Sonic. Cinder's eyes flashed with rage as her metallic fists clenched tightly. Indeed. Watts confirmed as well as he made the appropriate commands on his scroll. We want as much pressure focused on Menagerie right now to draw out that rat and corner him. Speaking of, he looked back towards Willow and Whitley, who could only gaze up in terror as Watts smiled to them evilly. Now is where you two fulfill your roles. True to Watts' words, the Atlesian dropships all began to touch down throughout the burning settlement of Kuokana, with the bay doors opening quickly to allow the Atlesian Knight robots to march out in the orderly fashion one would expect from a robotic army, right before the ships flew up to the air. And the second the robots touched down, they drew their blasters and opened fire on anything that moved. Faunus men, women, and even children were quickly gunned down. Some tried to fight back, the Menagerie Guard being among them, as they picked up whatever weapons or tools they could get their hands on and charged. A few robots were taken down, dropping their guns in the process and allowing for a Faunus to grab said gun and resume fire, which may even the odds a bit, but not every Faunus who fought back was so lucky as many that tried were similarly gunned down. Several tried to escape the city, with one Menagerie Guard leading a family through the burning woods, hoping to find some form of shelter outside. This way, quickly. However, the trees in front of them would soon be torn up by the arrival of an automated Atlesian Paladin. Before they even had the chance to scream, the guns on the giant mech fired to mow them down. And then the paladin just stood there, waiting for the next soul who would dare attempt to escape. This was the case around the perimeter of the settlement, where Atlesian paladins had been dropped in to follow their pre-programmed directive: allow no one to escape and shoot anything that enters a 10-foot radius. Deeper in the town, a group of Faunus found themselves cornered by 5 Atlesian knights that had all their weapons primed on them. But before they could open fire, a black dash zipped past them, revealing to be none other than Blake, with Gamble's shroud drawn. Before all 5 of the robots' heads were cut off. "Keep moving," Blake ordered, prompting the Faunus to run as fast as they could. Blake then looked behind her to see her friends and allies battling the Atlesian knights in the area. Vector charged forward to throw a punch, smashing 2 robots in one strike before grabbing a third to bite its head off easily enough. 3 attempted to shoot him from behind, only for Espio to leap above him and throw a set of 3 kunai at each of their heads, scoring direct hits to destroy them. "Nya. Look at me." Charmy danced over a group of AK units, drawing their attention as they opened fire on him, but he swiftly dodged all their shots easily. This left them open for Sun and Ilya to come in from opposite sides. The former spun Rui Bang and Jingu Bang over his head before slamming it down to smash 1 AK unit before breaking it off into a pair of nunchucks to smash the heads off 2 more that tried to shoot at him. Ilya sliced lightning lash in its blade form to cut 1 robot down before firing shots at a second to gun it down. A third tried to shoot at her, but she rolled out of the way to snap and fling lightning lash's whip mode around its neck, electrocuting it before pulling the whip to snap its head off. Gira had grabbed 2 AK units with his hands and smashed them together with his superior strength. "The way is clear. Move," he shouted, having cleared out the last of the robots in this area. "You heard him. Come on." Callie led a group of survivors away from a burning house and towards the surrounding forest. However, they would soon have their way blocked by an advancing paladin that already had its guns at the ready. "They're here." The paladin fired just as everyone heard the woman's warning. "Callie!" Gira shouted. "Mom!" Blake screamed as well, with everyone gasping. The woman had her eyes closed, awaiting the inevitable as she put herself in front of the family to shield them. And yet, despite the firing, nothing touched her. Her eyes opened slightly to see the bullets that were shot at her were caught in some kind of telekinetic grip, along with the paladin itself. That's when she, her family, along with the chaotics and every faunus in the area, saw Silver the Hedgehog, hovering in the air over the paladin, both it and its bullets in the grasp of power. Right on time, he pulled the bullets back, sending them into the paladin to push it back and away from the group before lifting the machine itself up and with a yell threw it as far as he could, to where it would fall and crash against the rocks and trees. Blake and everyone else looked in awe and surprise, all except the chaotics, who smiled with relief. "Silver, over here," Espio called to him, drawing his attention. But before anything else could be said, a series of explosions erupted over them, causing them all to look upwards and see 2 figures flying through the smoky sky, attacking various drop ships that tried to shoot at them. Tails piloted the Cyclone as he gunned straight for a dropship that opened fire on him, but the Cyclone's hardlight dust shields provided him protection as he returned fire with energy blasts of his own to blast the dropship out of the sky. He then flew through the smoke and went straight upwards to the underbelly of another dropship before firing again to gun it down as well. The second figure was Penny, who flew to avoid the gunfire of 2 dropships behind her as she drew their fire closer to her and away from the burning settlement below. Once she saw that they were far enough away, Penny stopped retreating and turned around to advance, dashing forward with floating array drawn, easily dodging the laser fire before using her blades to form 2 spinning wheels at her sides, which she used to slice off the wings of the dropships as she flew in between them, causing them to careen out of control as they crashed into each other. As everyone watched the fights occur above them, they failed to notice a group of 15 AK units advancing towards them with their guns at the ready. Espio noticed first along with Blake as they prepared to fight back. Only for a pillar of fire to explode in the middle of it all, destroying 3 AKs and scattering the others in the resulting blast. The one responsible was Blaze as she had levitating drawn, the glow of its flame reflecting off the determined expression in her eyes. As the remaining 12 robots were down, they were quickly disposed of before they could get back up again. Weiss had jumped over them, Mertonaster, which Winter had given her after their escape from Starline's base, thrusted forward to create 3 glyphs and send icicles to impale 3 AKs in one swoop. Seal had Cricket drawn in its light sword mode as she quickly moved to slice them apart like a hot knife through butter. And lastly, Ruby Rose swiftly picked up a rifle dropped by one of the AKs and shot the other 3 before they could get back up. Ruby, Weiss. They both looked to see Blake quickly running towards them. And just as the two got together, Blake wasted no time in wrapping her arms around them with emotional relief. Weiss didn't hesitate to return the embrace herself, with Ruby following, albeit slowly and shakily. Blake, Ruby muttered as this was not how she wanted to be reunited with her team. But right now, they had to focus on the fight. How are you two even here? Blake questioned as they let go. I heard that you went missing and some creep named Starline kidnapped us, along with my family and Penny. Weiss gave a basic summation as everyone regrouped together, with Penny landing on the ground and the cyclone hovering over them. He has the ability to create portals, and he also hijacked a small Atlasian fleet and sent them here. All the way from Atlas? Blake questioned. He had a giant portal thing whipped up at his base. Silver explained. Starline. Never heard of him. Vector commented. That doesn't matter, we need to get everyone out of here now. Gira stated. No, the entire perimeter of the settlement is being guarded by automated Atlasian paladins. Penny countered. Many have tried, none of them made it past the perimeter. She reported sadly, much to everyone's horror. That's not all. Tails said, his voice broadcasting through the speakers of his cyclone. One of the flagships is moving deeper into the island, towards the center. Are there any settlements over there? No, Sun winced. But there's probably a boatload of Grim underground. It didn't take long for them to realize what the enemy's intent was. And once they're drawn out, it won't be long before Grim from the sea begin to swarm in as well. Callie said gravely. Wait, are you saying we're trapped? Ilya exclaimed. The robots made to isolate us and create panic while the Grim finish off the rest. Espio said gravely. But why? Why are they doing this? Charmy exclaimed in a panic. An Atlas army attacking a Faunus island. Probably looking to start a race war between human and Faunus. Vector assumed. But we can worry about later. We gotta get these folks out of here. How? Ilya exclaimed in furious panic. We can't run out of town, we can't sail away. What about one of those ships? Ruby suggested, pointing up to the single flagship that remained over Kuokuana. If we could get control of it, Tails. All the dropships are up there are guarding them. Tails said. It'll be a while before I can clear the way, and even more to hack into whatever took them over. But I know someone who can do it faster than me, and even maybe shut down the robots. We gotta call for backup. Sonic, Ruby muttered with relief. Is there any place where people can find shelter until they're pulled out? Blaze inquired. There's a small mountain just west outside of the settlement right before the range that separates us from the desert. Gira answered. It can hold us up for a little bit, but not for long. But it may be the best defensible position we got. Vector said. Alright. Blaze nodded. Tails and Penny will continue to clear the skies, pave a way to the main vessel, and try to contact Sonic right away. Silver, you try and punch a hole through the paladins for refugees to escape too. I'll clear out as many of the knights in the settlement as I can, I'm faster on my own. Got it. Silver nodded. Everyone else, split into groups of 3 or more and rescue as many people as you can. Blaze continued. Tell them all to head west towards that mountain. Sounds like a plan, Blake nodded. Ruby, you, Weiss, and Seal stick with me. I know this place better than you. The Chaotix go together, Sun and Ilya stick with my parents. Let's move. Everyone nodded as they all split off into their respective groups and directions. As Penny and Tails both flew upwards to engage in aerial battle, Penny quickly contacted the young fox. Tails, before you contact Sonic, you need to know something about Ruby. She is not well. The thunderous sounds of explosions and people's screams could be heard, even through the walls of the prison where Adam and his fellow extremists were contained. They all looked with curiosity and nervousness, a feeling that was shared by the only 2 guards in the prison as they whispered to each other. We should be out there helping. We were ordered to stay here and guard Adam and the others. If we leave, they could escape. Then why don't we just put them out of our misery and go and help our people? Hey, what's going on out there? Gwei questioned, grabbing the bars of his cell door. It sounds like a war zone. Get away from the cell door. One guard brandished his gun and pointed it to his face. Suddenly, a blast of fire tore apart the roof above them, causing everyone to duck as they backed away as far as they could. The guards and prisoners all coughed from the resulting dust, but they didn't have much time to dwell on that as the sounds of metal piercing flesh were heard from the middle of the hallway. Adam was the first to stand back up, where he saw the dust clear to see both guards laying flat in a pool of their own blood, with the metal maiden standing over them, whom Adam recognized immediately. Cinder Fall, he looked at her newfound appearance in surprise. You've changed. You have no idea. Cinder replied as her eyes glowed and the locks on all the cell doors were superheated to the point that they melted. Everyone took a few steps back before the doors slowly opened, with Adam stepping out first, with all his followers being right behind them. Can we assume that Starline is involved in this? Corsac asked. The liberation and vengeance we were promised. Fennec also asked. Almost on cue, a portal opened up at the end of the hallway as both Starline and Watts stepped out, along with a series of metallic cases that hovered off the ground right behind them. Indeed, my friends. The time to come to take what you deserve is now. The platypus sneered. Ruby Rose is on this island. He spoke to Adam directly on that. Along with Weiss Schnee. That really caught their attention. Both are close friends with the traitor Blake Belladonna. He stepped aside to allow the metal cases to hover past him and towards each of the extremists. And with these, you will have the means to exact the revenge you so crave. Advanced weaponry handcrafted by yours truly and fit for those affiliated with the Eggman Empire. I personally customized them to fit each of your styles and I do so hope you like it. Trifa opened one case and looked at the weapon inside with surprise. It was also the same for Yuma, Gwei, Bai, Corsac, and Fennec. Incredible, the spider faunus looked in awe. Yuma smirked himself. I can definitely use this. Bai chuckled too. Bet even the upper brass in Atlas would get jealous. And of course, Watts stepped towards Adam and gave him the black metallic prosthetic arm that was previously taken. Wouldn't want you to feel left out now, would we? Adam took the arm back as he tore off the bandages from his body and then reattached it. He winced as he felt the wiring and components inside reattach to his nerves and reactivate. He flexed his hand as a red blade was extended from it, much to his satisfied joy. Thank you, doctors. Adam smirked. However, Gwei didn't appear as enthusiastic as his cohorts, as he looked away from his weapon, still drawn to the sounds of explosions and screaming outside. He went for the doorway that led outside, and opened it. Only to gasp in horror at the sight of Menagerie burning. The explosions that lit up from the sky of the hijacked Atlesian fleet raining fire, the flames spreading all around the wooded perimeter of Kuokuana, and the robots marching around and through the settlement, gunning down anything that stood in their way. By the god of animals, his face went pale as he was quickly joined by the rest of his teammates, all of whom looked just as shocked themselves at the sight of it. Even Adam was caught off guard by this. Did you do this? Gwei questioned, his fists clenching, his back kept away from the pair of scientists who observed him questionably. Now, there's no need for you, Starline tried to speak. Did you do this? Gwei shouted, turning around to reveal a face full of fury and anguish, like a bear ready to slaughter its foe. Though Cinder did step in to halt his path, Starline and Watts both looked unfazed at the reaction. You said the chance would come to get to the Belladonnas, you said to wait for the right moment, is this it? This slaughter. Of our people. Watts gave a slight sigh before answering. Yes. All the faunus present stared at them, looking in mixtures of shock and even anger, which was felt by Trifa, Yuma, and even Fennec. But none were more furious than Gwei. Why? He questioned as tears of fury flowed down his eyes. A means to an end. Watts explained. The faunus were already following under the leadership of Sonic the Hedgehog, which would have been bad for all of us. We had to strike at the root of it all to keep it from happening. Atlas, the kingdom most despised by the faunus due to it housing the Schnee Dust Company, will take the blame for this tragedy. Starline continued. Sonic's goal is to unite this world. This will further pit humans and faunus against one another, setting back any attempts at peace between the races by decades at least. Some sympathetic humans, such as those in Vale or even Vacuo, may see this as a tragedy and aid the Faunus in ensuring that justice is done. What's put in as well. Which could lead to a revival of the Great War, Adam realized. And when all sides are done exhausting themselves fighting each other, Eggman will swoop in and eliminate them when they're down, leaving him the only power in all of Remnant. Smart boy. Watts complimented. There are a few other details, but other than that, that is pretty much it. I have to admit, that is beyond brilliant. Adam smirked, much to the surprise of his allies, especially Gwei. Wah, Adam, you can't be serious right now. Gwei shouted. I'm being very serious, Gwei. Adam turned to him. Maybe this is a bit bigger than I thought, but if you think about it, this is necessary. Necessary. Gwei screamed as he grabbed Adam and slammed him against the wall. This is our home, our people, and they are being slaughtered like animals. Adam shouted back. Menagerie is a cage and you know it. It's an insult to all of the Faunus. We risked our lives in the Great War, hoping to finally be treated as equals and get a kingdom of our own. All we got was a tiny island that is 2/3 uninhabitable. And before you bring up the revolution after that, it hasn't changed a damn thing. Humanity still hates us and they always will. There is no standing equal to them when they'll just lock us back up again. He pushed Gwei back. Listen up, all of you. Adam shouted to his followers. I spent my whole life in a cage. I was born in Mistral, to parents who could barely afford to keep our stomachs full. Parents who were enslaved in dust mines and were whipped and worked to near death almost every day. They tried to fight back, they tried to organize a resistance with the Faunus workers in those mines, but when they were found out, they were executed by the humans who owned those mines. I was taken to fill their role, but I didn't submit. While everyone else waited for a huntsman that would never come, I bit back. I broke every tool I could see to slow them down. They whipped me until my back was bloodied red. I set off a dust explosion to kill the same guard who whipped me, and I got this. He threw his mask off to show the SDC brand over his eye. They tried to break me, to domesticate me, but all they did was throw more fuel onto the fire. So, I got all the Faunus to work with me, to fight back and kill all the people who hurt us. And we did it, we killed everyone in that facility and won our freedom with our bare hands. He wouldn't bring up how more than half the Faunus workers died in that riot, or that the rest of them would have been overwhelmed had Raven and her tribe not arrived to raid the facility themselves. Raven saw the fire in his eyes and took him in, hoping to build him up into a powerful warrior. At least that's what he hoped. But in reality, she just wanted a pet to do as she told. So, he left to join Sienna, but even then, she was too soft for him. Wake up. Freedom isn't given to you, it's won by blood. Adam continued. Anyone who thinks otherwise is lying to themselves. The Belladonnas want to be the pets of humanity, thinking that with collars we can have peaceful lives. But we do not need collars. They are the ones who should be begging us. Except it's our people being attacked now, Adam. Not humanity. Gwei argued. They're all traitors who would rather live in a cage. Adam said coldly. And if they want to burn with that prison, then let them. I'll slaughter all the humans who enslaved us, and the Faunus who think they're better just because they're domesticated. And that includes that false hero who doesn't know a damn thing about the world we live in. No, you will not. Gwei glared as fists clenched, standing in Adam's way. Corsac, Fennec, Bai, Trifa, and Yuma all looked in surprise at this act of defiance, while Starline and Watts seemed more amused by it than anything else before the latter looked to Cinder, who gave a slight nod. You betray your people, Gwei. Adam growled. You did that first. I betrayed the Faunus the minute I sided with you. He leapt at Adam with his claws drawn just as Adam extended the blade of his metal arm. Only for Cinder to grab Gwei by his throat and fly straight upwards, much to the shock of everyone else. Cinder had flown rather high up, carrying Gwei with her to the point they were well above the smoke that was beginning to spread all over Menagerie, to where they could clearly see the stars and shattered moon. Do your worst. I'd rather die now than serve you and your precious Eggman. Gwei spat, knowing what was about to come next. Cinder's mask opened to reveal a sinister smile on her face. As you wish. She let go. Gwei plummeted straight back to the ground, and yet he didn't scream. He knew this was coming, perhaps even what he deserved. He just wished he had the chance to atone and make things right, but that'll never happen. He could only hope that the Golden Hero and his allies could save as many of his people as they could. I'm sorry, everyone. He closed his eyes right before he crashed into what was left of the prison he was held in, causing several onlookers to stare in shock, all except Adam, who merely smirked just as Cinder landed. Starline and Watts both were unsurprised themselves by this as well. I could have finished him myself. Adam commented. Why bother wasting energy, when we both have much bigger fish to gut? Cinder replied with a sinister grin. Any further objections? Adam spoke to all his followers, some of whom looked questionable or even nervous at what just happened. Corsac and Fennec both shared expressions with each other before they nodded to one another and stepped forward. We are with you, High Leader Taurus. The twins said simultaneously. So are we, Trifa said, stepping up with Yuma. We will do as you say, for the sake of our future. The Bat Faunus added. Even if we have to drown this wretched island in blood. Bai said. Good, now arm yourselves. Adam said as he stepped onto his mask, breaking it under his heel. From now on, he'll show his face for all the world to see. It's time everyone gets what they deserve this night. Speaking of, here's a bit of a gift, Adam. Starline offered as he used the warp topaz to open a portal, from which Ix stepped out as he brought with him Willow and Whitley, with both their hands tied behind their backs and duct tape over their mouths. Both grunted as they were forced onto their knees in front of the villains before them. The matriarch of the Schnee family and their youngest child, Willow and Whitley. Watts revealed. Sadly we couldn't get the father or eldest sister, but I think this will suffice, wouldn't you say? Oh yes. Adam sneered as he stood over the frightened pair. This will do nicely. Mistral, Mystic Ruins, 1 hour earlier. As the members of Sienna Khan's White Fang prepared for potential battle, they also interacted with Sonic's friends and allies currently present, with Sienna Khan talking with Knuckles personally. Though sitting near one corner of the temple was Yang, whose own leg was tapping as she waited impatiently for a number of reasons, among which was to hear any news regarding her sister. But there was another reason she was nervous, and that reason was approaching her, being escorted by Amy, Cream, and Cheese, with said reason appearing just as nervous as her from first glance, despite trying to put on a smile. Hey, Kiro stuttered, slightly waving his hand. Got your message, you wanted to talk. He gestured to Amy next to him. Clearly the pink hedgehog had been sent by Yang to bring Kiro over to her after her talk with Blake. Thanks Amy, Yang nodded. No problem, Amy said with an understanding smile. We'll give you guys some privacy. Come on, Cream. Sure. She briefly flew up to Kiro's side and gave him an encouraging pat on his shoulder. Good luck, Mr. Kiro. Ciao. Cheese smiled too. Kiro gave a slight nod and smile of his own to see the two off with Amy. Made a friend, huh? Yang asked, getting his attention, hoping to break the ice a bit. Yeah, probably the sweetest kid in the whole world. Kiro said. Gotta be if she's got the patience for a cynic like me. He tried to joke, though it quickly got awkward again. Listen Yang, I just wanted to say, Kiro and Yang both spoke at the same time, briefly interrupting the other. What? They both repeated. You go first, Yang allowed. No, you go first. I insist, Kiro replied. With a sigh, the blonde accepted with a nod. Okay. Look, about what happened when we last spoke, that got way out of hand. And, I might have taken things too far. Well, to be fair, my being all angsty wasn't doing anyone any favors either, Kiro said. But I pushed it, Yang said. When I said I would kill you if you ever tried anything with RWBY, I didn't actually mean it, I only said that because I was scared that you would try to take away the only member of my family that I felt wouldn't leave me and leave me alone, and I wanted you to take me seriously that I wouldn't let you hurt her, but, she stiffened and sniffled. Ever since then, I know RWBY wanted to try and reconnect with you, but I didn't let her, and things just started to get worse for her. Her mood just kept dropping and dropping because of everything that's happened, and then Metal Sonic showed up, wielding Crescent Rose. That last part caused Kiro to gasp slightly. And that definitely didn't do her any favors, but, it felt like that she was slipping away, and maybe I should have called you sooner or let her talk to you, and that's definitely on me, but, it was sounding like she was on the verge of crying. I'm still scared of what you could do if you thought it was for the greater good. Kiro's look became sympathetic as he continued to listen to his niece. You tried to make my friend into some kind of magic super solider, lied to us, kept us all in the dark, and pushed our friends back at every turn when you could have just talked to them, talked to us. Let us know that we were getting in too deep with all this stuff. But it felt like you trusted Ozpin more than you trusted us, and I still don't know how to feel about that. I want to trust you, I really, really do, but, I just can't, not now. Now she was crying. Just please, help me find my sister, 'cause I know, for whatever reason, whether it's you caring for her or Ozpin wanting to use her eyes, you need her, so please. Kiro honestly felt his heart break as he heard all this. Clearly Yang was struggling with so much since they left after their falling out. Hearing that robot that killed Ozpin wield Crescent Rose made his blood boil, as he had a gut instinct that machine was using it to cause severe harm, and he could only imagine how RWBY must feel about that. But even that didn't compare to how Yang was feeling about him. She wanted to give him a chance, she was making that clear, but she was still scared that he would do something nefarious, and even suggested the possibility that he only wanted to find RWBY because of her silver eyes. The damage and broken trust were still very clearly there, and honestly, he couldn't blame her. If he and Ozpin perhaps approached Sonic separately, away from RWBY and the others, and tried to bring them into their group sooner, perhaps all the tension and shattered trust could have been avoided. But what's done is done, and all they could do was try to find a way to move forward, and that was earning the trust back of both his nieces, which he was determined to do, even if it was one step at a time. Okay. Kiro nodded with acceptance. Yang sniffled as she wiped the tears from her eyes. Alright, so, what did you want to say? This gave Kiro a bit of hope that Yang was willing to hear him out, and there was a lot he needed to tell her. So much so that it would be overwhelming to get it all out at once, but he had to make some things clear. Yang, first let me say, that I'm sorry. He began. I'm sorry for all the secrets, for making you doubt that I cared, or that I trusted Ozpin more, and I'm especially sorry that I was an asshole to your friends. He gave a slight chuckle. It's funny, after summer. You'd think I'd be understanding where Pyrrha would be, putting a choice on her that would separate her from her friends and family permanently, but I just went along with it. 'Cause Ozpin said so? Yang inquired. Yeah, pretty much. Kiro confirmed. Look, there's a reason I've been following him so much, and it's a lot to get out right now, and if you want, I promise to tell you everything when you feel you're ready. But, I know you think finding RWBY takes priority, and you're 100% right about that. I know you say you can't trust me, but let me make this as clear as I can. He kneeled to Yang's level so that she got a good look in his eyes, for her to see how sincere and serious he was being about this. I will do everything I can to make sure RWBY is found, safe and sound. I will lay my life on the line to make sure you two are together again. And when it's done, and you two are safe, I promise to tell you both everything. No more secrets, no more lies. But, even after all that, and you still don't think you can trust me, then I promise to leave you alone, if that's what you want. Yang could tell right away that Kiro was being genuinely honest here, including him staying away from her if that's what she wanted. But that wasn't what she wanted. She wanted to have her uncle in her life again, for real. But at the moment, not only was she still hurting over everything, her sole focus was finding RWBY. But at the very least, she got to hear him not only apologize but own up to his screw-ups. And just as she promised RWBY back at Spiral Hill, if Kiro did all that, she'd hear him out. Alright, Yang gave a small nod. I'll hear you out, but only after we find RWBY, 'cause you owe her an explanation too. You're right, I do. Kiro stood up as he offered Yang his hand hopefully. Now let's go get her. Yang looked to Kiro's hand and considered taking, but ended up pushing herself up on her feet all on her own. Which only caused Kiro to look in disappointment. Until he felt his hand being clasped by none other than Yang herself, who looked at him with a solidified expression. Kiro gasped slightly but soon steeled his resolve as he held his hand firmly with hers. Meanwhile, on the other side of the temple, Sonic were talking with Oscar, though Ozpin was currently in control, with Amelia and Rosa right beside them. Sonic, Ozpin began to speak somewhat nervously. Words cannot express the gratitude I feel for you saving Beacon. So many lives were saved because of you. You even managed to accomplish the impossible, to purge an entire continent free of the Grim. I had truly thought that they would be a permanent blight to Remnant, but you were able to do it. You have my deepest thanks, for all the lives you saved, that night. It's what I do, Sonic replied. I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. Even if it did come with consequences, he gestured up to the mystic ruins. But you know the old saying, no good deed goes unpunished. Believe me, I know exactly what you mean, Ozpin said with a sad smile. And to your credit, you couldn't have known this would have happened. And it certainly beats the alternative of Beacon falling. I know, but still, Sonic said. And on that note, allow me to apologize sincerely, for not trusting you completely. Ozpin confessed. Well, if you spend 200 lifetimes playing a 5D chess game with a demonic sorceress, you're bound to get a little paranoid. Sonic allowed. True, but still, I should have invited you in sooner. Ozpin admitted. I am sorry. Sonic nodded with a smile. Okay. He shrugged. Ozpin blinked briefly. That quickly. He honestly never expected Sonic to forgive him so fast. I try not to get hung up on the past too much. Sonic answered simply. Plus, some of my friends were my enemies before, and compared to some of that, you're definitely leaning toward the brighter side of things. So yeah, it's cool. But, he raised up his finger quickly. You gotta promise, from here on out, no more secrets. Can you do that? There was a brief silence from Ozpin before he gave his answer. That sounds more than fair. Sonic smiled as he offered his hand to shake, which Ozpin accepted. So, question, the new guy. Sonic gestured to the current host of the reincarnated warrior. Oscar. Ozpin answered. Is he aware of everything that goes on around him? Sonic asked. To an extent, yes. Ozpin replied. Just to get this out of the way, is he a huntsman student? Can he fight? Sonic questioned. He's not a huntsman student. Amelia spoke up. He can hold his own in scrap if he's gotta, but don't expect him to be a one-man army or anything. Got it. Sonic understood. Probably best to keep you guys at Vale where it's safe and grim-free till all this is taken care of. Absolutely. Ozpin agreed without hesitation. The last thing he'd want would be to Salem to learn of his return and put Oscar in the path of that monster. But given that Vermilion was able to recognize him in Spiral Hill, it honestly wouldn't surprise him if Salem knew that he was back already. And if you do not mind, Oscar wishes to speak with you. Sure. Sonic smiled welcomingly. He saw a flash in Ozpin's eyes as his demeanor changed, showing Oscar was now in control. Oh my gods, Oscar looked beyond excited as he saw him. It's you. The Golden Hero. Golden Hero, Sonic winced slightly at that. Just call me Sonic, kid. Okay. Oscar shook his hand with both his hands. Mr. Sonic. Just Sonic. The blue hedgehog repeated with Oscar still shaking his hand. And you don't have to be all hero worship on me or anything. Your alien hedgehog who literally became some kind of golden god to destroy all the grim in Vale. Amelia pointed out somewhat humorously. Not to mention you've saved our own universe several times over. Rosa added. Including my whole species. Alright, that's fair. Sonic accepted but noticed Oscar was still shaking his hand. Dude. Sorry, just, wow. Oscar tried to calm himself down. Come on Oscar, play it cool. He slapped his hands to his cheeks rapidly, which only amused Sonic somewhat. Just, really nice to meet you. Likewise, Oscar. Sonic smiled and nodded. Hey, while we're on the subject, I got an important question. Amelia stepped forward too. Let me guess, you want to know if I can separate Oscar and Ozpin. Sonic assumed, to which Amelia nodded. I'd probably need all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds, but yeah. I think I can pull it off. It would take some time, but I can do it. His eyes then quickly widened. Or, how about a quicker way? You know my friend Blaze, right? Well, I mean Ozpin's gotta know about her, or at least read about her from the stuff on our past adventures we gave him. Maybe, but I don't know all that much, we don't share a mind, yet. Oscar replied. Alright, well here's a summary. Sonic began. Blaze is from another world different from mine, and she's got her own set of emeralds called the Sol Emeralds. They're like the Chaos Emeralds, but fiery. Another set of emeralds. Oscar blinked in surprise with even Amelia standing up. I believe I have indeed read about that before. Ozpin revealed. But, I also hear using them causes a great risk. What risk, exactly? Oscar asked. When Eggman, and somebody else like him, brought them over to my world, Blaze's world almost merged with mine. Sonic said. Apparently using them outside their home dimension runs the risk of drawing Blaze's world being drawn to that dimension. Much like what happened to us in Mystic Ruins, Rosa realized. Because the Chaos Emeralds were used outside of their home dimension. Maybe that's the reason so many people and places from your home are popping up on Remnant. Probably. Sonic said. So, while the Chaos Emeralds are scattered here, I know that Blaze has all 7 of the Sol Emeralds and they're just as powerful. So Blaze can probably use them to separate you two. He said to Oscar. But, you said the risk of her dimension. Oscar looked confused. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Sonic interrupted. The Sol Emeralds are what let Blaze come to Remnant in the first place, and she can use them to go back to her home. So, here's my idea. When you two meet, she brings you back to her world and then uses the Sol Emeralds to separate you. Boom. Done. He clapped his hands for emphasis. Oscar could only blink, something he felt Ozpin do within his head as well. That could work, if these Sol Emeralds operate as he describes, using them to separate us on the world of their origin where there is less risk. It may very well break the curse entirely. Ha, 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 Oscar chuckled with relief and joy. Ozpin thinks it could work. He went over to his aunt with a hopeful look in his eyes. We might have a way out of this. Amelia almost shed tears of joy for her nephew as she pulled him in tightly. Oscar, my boy, you're gonna be okay. Sonic smiled at the little family having their moment. But that's when Rosa approached him. Sonic, if Ozpin is just a soul inside Oscar's body, what will happen when they're separated? Will Ozpin get a body of his own or? That's when Sonic's smile faded as he honestly didn't know. Probably best to ask Blaze that. But it did beg the question, if this curse of reincarnation was broken and Ozpin's soul was set free, what exactly would happen to him? Before he could ponder any further, Sonic heard a ring from within his jacket. Pulling out his personal scroll, he saw the picture of Tails on the screen before answering. Hey, Tails. Sonic, we need you in Menagerie now. Tails shouted so loudly that it drew the attention of Oscar, as well as Ozpin within, Amelia, and Rosa. Menagerie, Tails, what are you? Sonic looked confused and concerned. The guy who kidnapped Ruby, Weiss, and Penny just hijacked an Atlesian fleet and they're attacking Blake's home. Tails exclaimed. Renegade robots are everywhere and the Grim won't be far behind. Silver, Blaze, the Chaotix are all here but need help. Sonic's eyes widened in shock and even terror as he heard all that. Are Ruby and the others there too? They are, but so is Cinder. Tails revealed. She's been upgraded into some kind of cyborg and has the Winter Maiden powers. Hang on, I'll be there as soon as I can. Sonic stated seriously. Make sure you bring Gemerald with you too. And Sonic, you need to know something. Tails wasn't finished. Something's wrong with Ruby. That really didn't sit well with Sonic. What do you mean? Penny says she's discovered something inside her that's directly affecting her central nervous system, even her brain. Tails revealed. I don't know what exactly it is, but it can't be good. The second you get here, take Ruby to Vale where she'll be safe. This isn't a good place for anyone right now, but it's okay, I get it. Sonic assured. We'll be right there. Hold the line, buddy. He hung up before looking to the pink-colored wisp. Gather everyone up, Rosa. We got a problem. On it. Rosa flew away to find all their friends with Sonic speeding off to do the same. Oscar and Amelia followed as well, but as they did, Oscar couldn't help but get this uneasy feeling from within that wasn't coming from. Is something wrong? Somehow, he could feel Ozpin's anxiety from within. We both heard what Tails just said. Aside from Menagerie being attacked, this phenomenon that is supposedly affecting Ruby, it sounds familiar. Ozpin confessed. Do you know what it is? Oscar asked nervously. I will need to see her to know for sure, but I can take a guess. I just pray that I'm wrong. Ozpin said gravely. It didn't take long for everyone to meet at the base of Mystic Ruins, the group consisting of Sonic, Knuckles, Amy, Young, Kiro, Cream, Cheese, Gemerald, Tangle, Oscar, Amelia, Sienna, and Rosa, and they were briefed on the situation and were more than shocked with what they heard. Menagerie. Attacked. Sienna exclaimed in fury. Ruby's there, Yang's face paled. And Cinder's back with the Winter Maiden. Knuckles said seriously. Everyone listen up, I'm gonna use Chaos Control to port us all there. Sonic explained, showing the blue Chaos Emerald. But we gotta make a quick detour to Vale to drop of Oscar and his aunt, and Cream and Cheese too. But I can help Mr. Sonic. Cream said, I know you can, but Oscar might need some company. Sonic said, looking to the boy who already seemed more than a little anxious with what's going on. He's right, kiddo. Even Kiro agreed. Sure you can hold your own in a fight, but this sounds like a war zone. No place for a kid, no matter how good they are. Cream nodded in understanding. Okay. But you'll go with them, right General? Affirmative. If my presence is requested, I will join the fight. General gave a thumbs up. But what's going on with RWBY? You said she was sick or something? Amy asked, to which Yang and Kiro looked especially worried. Penny thinks there's something going on with her, but she doesn't know what yet. Sonic answered. So right after we go to Menagerie, I'll grab RWBY and send her back to Vale before coming back. Maybe Cream's healing powers can help too, and maybe Ozpin can figure out what's going on with her. He looked to Oscar, who gave a nervous nod of his own. What about you? Tangle asked Sienna. Don't you have your own guys to lead here? They got orders not to do anything unless they hear from me directly. Sienna revealed. Blake and her family are in danger, and I am not going to let them down again. Sonic nodded seriously as he held the blue Chaos Emerald in one hand and drew Caliburn in the other. He briefly looked to his own reflection in the blade that he had previously lent RWBY before it was lost when she was abducted in Spiral Hill. A solidified resolve then appeared on his face. Hang on, RWBY. We're coming for you. Chaos Control. With a flash of light, the group vanished from Mystic Ruins, and from the Kingdom of Mistral entirely. Menagerie. Chaos and fire continued to spread all throughout the coast of the island, the trees burning all around the settlement of Kuokuana, which seemed to be the main focus of the attack, and already there were many casualties among the Faunus who lived there. But despite that, the people were fighting back, and they were joined in by some very powerful and very valuable allies, two of which were already working on clearing the skies. Tails fired a pair of gravity dust missiles at two incoming dropships, blasting them out of the sky before flying straight through the resulting smoke, and was forced to dodge the gunfire from another dropship that came at him from behind. Fortunately, the Cyclone proved to be much faster and nimbler as it spun like a corkscrew to avoid the fire before Tails pulled on the air brakes, which caused the flying jet to fly backwards right towards the dropship. The young fox timed it just right so that he stopped to the point where his thrusters were right in front of the dropship just before he activated them, causing a blast of fire to blow away the front of the dropship as he zoomed through the smoky skies. Penny's smaller android body made it easier for her to fly and avoid all the gunfire from the dropships that came at her. She was being pursued by two while a third came at her from the front, but Penny just flew forward, easily dodging the shots fired at her before landing on the top of the ship and sticking her feet to its surface before drawing floating array. 3 blades appeared on each of her sides as they linked together and fired off 2 beams of green energy, striking each of the dropships to shoot them down right before Penny redirected her swords to slice off the wings of the dropship she was currently on to send it plummeting to the ground. Meanwhile, Silver engaged with the paladins on the west side of the burning Kuokuana, and though he was told to take out only a few and punch a small hole for evacuees, he wanted to make sure that none of them could endanger the Faunus, so he sought to remove as many as he could. The futuristic hedgehog used his shield, Galahad, to block the gunfire of one paladin before sending it forward to slice off its right arm, which he picked up with his psychic powers and smashed into the paladin's cockpit, bringing it down. Though this drew the attention of the paladin behind it as it charged directly for Silver and fired a volley of lasers at him, but Silver pulled up the remains of the paladin he just defeated to act as a shield, causing it to break apart even further once the lasers made contact. But this worked to Silver's advantage as he thrusted his hands forward to send all the remains crashing and exploding on the attacking paladin, destroying it as well. "That's 6 already," Silver muttered to himself before looking towards a group of hiding Faunus. "The path is clear. Head straight to the mountain. Go," he ordered, pointing in the direction they needed to go in which they all ran as quickly as they could before Silver flew further around the area. "Let's keep going. Gotta clear out as many as I can." He spotted 2 more incoming paladins before flying over them to draw their attention to him. "Come on, I'm right here," He challenged as they fired missiles and lasers at him, and while Silver dodged the latter, he was quick to catch the former before throwing it back at the enemy with explosive results. At the same time, Blaze worked as quickly as she could to clear out all the Atlesian knights that were scattered throughout the settlement. She dashed straight for a group of 4, all of whom fired at her, but she swiftly jumped upwards with a burst of flame from her soles before spinning around to generate a wheel of fire around her as she came back down to slice apart and burn all 4 of the AKs once she touched down, only to dash forward to find the next group of robots to battle. She soon spotted a skirmish between 2 Menagerie Guard and Faunus civilians against 5 AK units, and it looked like they could use hand. Dashing with flames at her feet for a burst in speed, Blaze drew Lavating and with one slice and dash, she had cut the arms off from the 2 units in the front, disarming them before slicing her sword to send a wave of flame to blast away the 3 in the back. The Faunus quickly made short work of the disarmed robots before picking up their weapons. "Thank you," one guard said to her. "Head west. A path is being cleared. Do not stop until you reach the mountain. We're organizing an evacuation," Blaze ordered. "You got it." The guard nodded as he motioned for everyone to follow him. "I've already cleared out almost 50 knights." Blaze thought to herself. They're not as tough as Eggman's badniks and are manageable on their own. But when the Grimm show up, things will change quickly. I can only hope Sonic arrives soon, and that Weiss and her friends are handling things right now. Further up north the settlement, Gira used his strength to lift up the burning remains of a small house, allowing for the family to stumble out. One little dear Faunus boy fell to his hands and knees coughing up a storm, prompting Callie to kneel to his leave and hand the boy a canteen of water. "Thank you, chieftain," the father of the family said to Gira. "Move quickly. Head west." Gira pointed in that direction. "Gira, behind you." Callie warned her husband as a group of Atlesian knights appeared on the scene and were ready to gun them down, but Sun fortunately came to their aid swinging RWBY Bang and Jingu Bang in its staff form to smash apart 2 robots up front before spinning his staff to deflect the shots that fired at him from behind, which left them open for Elia to come in from behind and rapidly slash with lightning lash to cut them down. "The area is clear, but I wouldn't dally," Sun said. "No Grimm yet, but that will change soon," Elia added. "Right, move it, now." Gira urged the family to run, which they did. Further south in the settlement, closer to the docks and the water, Espio and Charmy both worked to escort a group of a dozen survivors westward with a few Menagerie Guard helping to provide protection. "This way. Keep your eyes open. Call out any robots or Grimm that you see," Espio said as he was at the head of the pack, Cyclone and Inferno both drawn in his hands. One rabbit Faunus woman looked up in the sky to see an incoming dropship and screamed. "Above us." "I got it." Charmy flew straight up, his armored stinger pointing forward as he zoomed in and tore through the entire left wing, sending it careening away from the ground before coming back in around the side to smash through on the left. The force of his attack combined with the gravity was enough to push the falling dropship into the water and away from the crowd. But it didn't end there as 3 Atlesian knights appeared in front of the pack, but Espio acted quickly as he thrusted both Cyclone and Inferno forward to send a fiery twister forward to burn and blow back the robots off the docks and into the water. He didn't get much chance to celebrate though as something appeared from the water on his right. It appeared to be what one could only be described as a Grimm in shark form that was 12 feet in length and incredibly thick. Espio's eyes glanced its way as it shot itself from the water with its teeth opened wide, and the chameleon ninja was more than ready to cut it down with his weapons. Slash. Asterisk. Something ended up bisecting the shark Grimm completely, its corpse quickly disintegrating to reveal Vector with the battle axe that Gira had lent him. The Faunus survivors looked in awe at the feat as Vector landed on the docks. "This ain't a sightseeing trip, folks. Move it," the crocodile said to everyone, prompting them to keep running. "Was that a Grimm shark?" Charmy exclaimed, flying to his leader. "Yeah, folks call 'em lamias," Vector said. "Just took care of a whole pack of 'em. And I can assume that more are on their way," Espio said seriously. "Yeah, it ain't looking good boys," Vector commented, looking more than a little nervous. At the same time, the group that consisted of RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Seal were on the east side of the settlement, doing their best to help any survivors that were further away from the evacuation point. Blake, who had leapt into a burning house 5 minutes ago, kicked the door down as she carried a young bird faunus boy in her arms with his parents right behind them before dropping them off with a group of other survivors that they and several aiding menagerie guardsmen had found. Due to being so far away from the evacuation spot, RWBY had the idea of gathering all the people they could manage and escort them all at once, as it would save time than just going back and forth with small groups. A few stray Atlesian knights were able to make their way there, but before they could open fire, RWBY and Seal, who were standing guard around the survivors with the menagerie guardsmen, quickly opened fire with their respective weapons, RWBY still wielding a rifle she got from the knight she destroyed when she first got here. There aren't as many knights as there seemed to be before, Seal reported. I can assume Blaze has eliminated most of them. About as quickly as Sonic could, RWBY muttered as she looked all around to the burning settlement. She could see fires consuming not just houses and homes, but the bodies of people too. She had seen so many bodies on the way to this spot, so many innocent men, women, and children, all laying on the ground filled with holes and in pools of their own blood. More than once, RWBY resisted the urge to throw up, but she steeled herself to keep going, despite still being exhausted from the torture Starline put her through and not resting since. Come on, stay on your feet, RWBY told herself as she felt a very sharp pain in the back of her neck, which she tried to ignore as best as she could. This is Blake's home. She needs you. You have to help her save as many as you can. Weiss, meanwhile, had used a glyph to summon a large ice crystal to smash its way through a pile of burning wood, clearing an opening for the survivors underneath. Now's your chance. Move, she exclaimed, prompting the faunus to run out as quickly as they could. One rat faunus man fell to his knees, his side covered in blood, prompting Weiss to kneel to him and help him up. Are you okay? The minute he saw her though, his face paled. You're Weiss Schnee. The girl felt her heart stop at that as she could hear the fear in the man's voice. What are you doing here? Did you do this? What? No. Why would you? Weiss tried to defend. You Atlas people hate us. Your company enslaved us, and now you sent a fleet to attack us. I didn't. Weiss's voice was already breaking. What do you want from us? Do you want to kill us all? Is that what you want? No, I don't want. Tears were already flowing down her face. She's here to help. Blake quickly stepped in, pulling the man by his shoulder. Why would she risk her life down here if she sent that fleet to attack? Huh, the man only blinked in surprise. You're defending her, a Schnee. She's not her family. She's not her father, Blake insisted. And now is not the time to worry about that. Do you want to live? Then trust me and do what she says, unless you want to stay here and get burned alive. Blake shoved him closer to the growing group of survivors, which he stumbled for a bit before picking himself up in a panic and ran. This caused the cat faunus girl to turn to her teammate, who could only stare at the burning village around her before looking down at the dress that she still wore since the charity concert and her kidnapping. It was only a few hours ago that Weiss hosted a spectacular performance about unity and strength, all under the symbol of the Golden Hero. And now, a madman has used an Atlasian fleet to launch a massacre on the island that was the home to many innocent people. Even before coming to Beacon, when she had a distaste and distrust towards the faunus, she would never in a million years ever wish for something like this. Weiss, Blake tried to speak to her, but Weiss was too lost in her own thoughts to even think. Weiss. Blake grabbed her by her shoulder to pull her in, the two looking each other in the eyes. Whatever he said to you, forget about it. Right now, that doesn't matter. We have to focus. Focus on saving anyone we can. We can deal with everything else later. Just please, help me. Blake's resolve wavered only slightly, but it was still noticeable to the heiress, who could tell right away how terrified and devastated Blake must be right now. This was her home and she was watching it burn. But despite that, she tried to stand tall and help all the people around her. This was enough for Weiss to try and focus herself, to clap her hands onto her cheeks and get her head in the game. Okay, alright, let's go. Weiss nodded, to which Blake nodded back as they went to regroup with RWBY and Seal. They could see that their group already had 30 or so survivors. Is this everyone? Blake nodded. All those we could find in this area. Seal reported. We can't take any more than this, and when the Grimm show up, it'll be too big for us to protect. RWBY understood. Then let's move now. Come on, everyone. We're heading west. Move as quick as you can. Blake ordered the people, prompting them and their escorts to all move. Meanwhile, Watts and Starline both stood on the bridge of the latter's personal craft, observing everything happening via the windows that Starline erected via the warp topaz. They seemed to be holding their own rather well, all things considered. Impressive, Starline admitted. But now is the time to stir the pot. Watts looked out the main window of their ship where they had seen the second flagship was now in the middle of the desert area on the island. And per the programmed instructions of the virus installed, all the cannons and guns attached to the ship's hull activated and pointed straight downward, right before they opened fire. A rain of energy blasts and bombs shot down to completely tear up the sandy ground as well as any surrounding rock formations. Within a matter of seconds, the entire area had been not only flattened but even glazed from the intense heat of the energy blasts. Believing that was enough, Watts used his scroll to signal the command to stop, abruptly halting the assault. Both he and Starline watched with anticipation as the cloud of smoke began to clear from the ground. And before long, the ground itself began to explode outward as all the Grimm that were hidden underneath the sands and stone had tunneled their way to the surface, already stirred from the intense panic on the island, but the force of the recent attack also drew their attention. In only a few seconds, a horde of Tygetus and Death Stalkers had emerged. And it wasn't just them. Within the nearby mountains of the recent attack, deep in the pitch-black caves, countless bright red eyes lit up before swarms of a new breed of Grimm all flew out. Their appearance seemed roughly humanoid, covered in black skin and elongated limbs that had bone-white claws and talons with bat-like wings on their backs. They also had white ribs sticking out from their chests that seemed abnormally thin. And the most disturbing of all were the demonic-like skulls that they had for faces with long fangs, almost akin to vampires. These were Nosferaltus. And just like their brethren on the ground, they found themselves drawn by the intense negativity, all the fear and panic, that was felt just over the mountains before flying in that direction. The Death Stalkers and Tygetus all made their way there as well, though they were noticeably slower than the flying vampire-like Grimm above them, they were still drawn there all the same. Let's see them adapt to this. Starline mused as he and Watts both snickered. Gira, Callie, Sun and Elia, while helping more survivors to flee, were the first to notice the screeching bat-like sounds coming from the mountains as they were the closest to that range being north. And it was in that spot that they saw the large swarm of black flying creatures heading in their direction. Please tell me those aren't what I think they are, Sun gulped. Nosferaltus, Callie's face lost all its color. And they're spreading all over the island. Gira exclaimed. Elia was the first to pull out her scroll just as the Nosferaltus flew straight down towards them. Blake, heads up. We got company. We see them. Blake shouted back as she, Ruby, Weiss, and Seal, who were escorting their refugees more westward, noticed the incoming flying Grimm moving in a swarm akin to bats with so many that it seemed almost like a black cloud in the already smoky sky. Everyone else around the island noticed them as well, such as Silver, Blaze, Tails, Penny, and the Chaotix from their respective spots. But due to being so close to the docks, the incoming Nosferaltus weren't their only problem as Epsio sensed something coming from the ocean behind them. Move! He shouted just as something shot out from the docks underneath them, sending them flying up and crashing into the shallow water. When the three of them surfaced, they all looked up in shock to see a sea Phylong Grimm emerge from the water with a roar. Not another one of these things. Vector groaned. And it looks like he brought friends. Charmy pointed behind to see two more sea Phylongs rise up from the water alongside it. Scatter! Vector ordered as the three sea dragon-like Grimms opened their mouths to blast beams of lightning at them, already blasting away much of the docks and spreading more fire around the area. Charmy flew straight up towards one to slash across its face with his armored stinger. Take that! But he soon yelped as that sea Phylong tried bite at him. Yow! He flew upwards to avoid it, prompting the Grimm to spread its own wings and fly after him. Espio backflipped across the shallow water to avoid the lunge from the second sea Phylong. Vector, we need to get out of the water. Right, lightning breath. Vector saw it as he and Espio quickly made their way back to the land just in time for the third sea Phylong to fire its own lightning blast at him, the shockwave sending him flying. Run! Everybody run, now! Silver ordered as all the Faunus behind him screamed and made dashed towards the mountain westward while Silver flew up to deal with the incoming Nosferaltus. He first sent his shield Galahad out with his powers, using it to shoot it like a bullet to slice and skewer through several vampire-like Grimm before calling it back as many more closed the distance with him. Silver grabbed 2 with his psychokinesis and smashed them together before throwing them at more incoming, but he would soon be caught and grabbed by 6 of them that tried to bite at him and slash with their claws. Silver grunted as he focused his powers all around him and emitted an all-encompassing shockwave from his body to blast the Nosferaltus away from him before looking up to see more incoming, only causing him to look with worry. "Penny, we gotta take as many of these things out as we can," Tails told her as they flew to engage the swarm directly. Agreed. She brought all her floating array swords out and brought them together in the middle to fire the largest beam she could muster, which was a massive blast of green energy that vaporized a large portion of the Nosferaltus, carving right through the swarm of black like a hot knife through butter. Tails added to this by firing a similar beam of focused lightning dust via hardlight energy, unleashing an upgraded form of the cyclone cannon that was just as big as Penny's energy beam, which similarly incinerating many Nosferaltus. However, when they were forced to stop, all they did was slow the swarm down as countless all barreled further to attack the pair with Penny and Tails being forced to flee and scatter. Multiple Nosferaltus attempted to surround Penny, to grab at her, but she easily sliced through them with her multitude of blades, determined not to let any so much as touch her. But for each one she cut down, it seemed like 2 more would take its place. Tails was having a much harder time due to the cyclone being larger with the Nosferaltus all grabbing onto and swarming around the plane, clawing at its metallic plating as well as the cockpit that had the little fox inside. "No thanks. I just got this thing rebuilt." He pulled down on a certain lever. "Activate X Tornado." The Nosferaltus around him were thrown off as the cyclone underwent its transformation, with the large metallic legs appearing below with a pair of thrusters in the underbelly to keep it hovering in the air with the arm constructs appearing from the sides like before. The cyclone had once again transformed into the X-Tornado, which Tails didn't hesitate to use to fight back, smashing and kicking all the Nosferaltus that came his way. RWBY, Seal, Blake, and Weiss used whatever they could to shoot upwards at the incoming swarm of Nosferaltus, slowing their advance but not stopping it. "Get them out of here," Blake shouted to the menagerie guard escorting the evacuees, which they nodded as they urged the people to run as quickly as they could while the 4 girls kept their fire focused on the incoming Grimm so that they would be focused solely on them. Though more than a dozen Nosferaltus were shot out of the sky at this point, several were already landing on the ground, surrounding the 4 who were forced to come together and defend themselves when the Grimm lashed out their claws at them. Weiss sliced Myrtenaster to cut off the arm of one Nosferaltu before lunging forward to impale it before being grabbed from behind and lifted up to a second one's mouth as it attempted to bite her head off. But she erected a glyph underneath its feet to shoot up an ice spike to eviscerate it, causing her to land only to be forced to engage with 2 more that came at her from both sides. Blake fired Gamble Shroud into the face of one to kill it, only for a second to fly in from behind and try to bite at her, but Blake used her semblance to jump backwards and leave a flaming shadow clone to take the impact and then explode, killing it before leaping upwards to avoid a third that tried to grab her from behind, having heard it with her enhanced hearing. Though this left her open for a 4th to fly in and pounce on her, pinning her to the ground where 2 tried to get her while she was down, but she was able to use her semblance to slip away from their grip before dashing forward, slicing her sword and bladed sheath to cut them all down. Seal had Cricket converted into its light whip form to snap at the wings of an incoming Nosferatu, burning through them while also entangling the Grimm before she pulled to slice apart the Grimm. 3 landed in around her, surrounding her before charging in. Seal however jumped into the air, leading them to crash into each other before she snapped her light whip to entangle all their heads and necks just as she landed on their shoulders. She kicked off them as she pulled on Cricket to yank their heads off completely. But as she landed, 2 tackled her to the ground and tried to claw and bite at her. A high-pitched yell echoed through as RWBY barreled forward with her semblance, using corkscrew-like attack to bluntly smash into the 2 Nosferaltus and knock them down and off of Seal. RWBY stumbled on the ground before getting back up as she fired her rifle at the downed Grimm. A series of screeches came at her from behind, leading her to dash away and avoid a pair of Nosferaltus that tried to tackle and swarm her. She then zoomed straight for them, sticking out her right foot to kick and strike the head of one, shattering its skull in one hit before landing on her hands as she spun her legs around to kick the claws away of the second. She pushed herself up with her hands to get back on her feet before jumping towards the second and gave an upward swinging kick to the side of the Grimm's head to break it off completely. The four of them regrouped and already seemed out of breath as they looked forward and spotted more than a dozen Nosferaltius in front of them, clinging to the burning huts and houses, positioning themselves like demons, ready to come in for the kill. Blaze was handling a large pack of Nosferaltus on her own, having cleared out what she hoped were the last of the Atlesian Knights, but now was forced to contend to the newly arrived Grimm. She swung Levadine rapidly to send multiple waves of flame at the incoming Grimm, and while she cut down 4 already, the rest were already swarming at her from all sides. However, Blaze boosted herself into the air with flames from her souls before spinning around to generate a wheel of flame that when she came back down, she sliced and burnt all the Nosferatlus around her in one swoop, but that still wasn't the end of it. One lunged forward, which she impaled with her flaming sword. Another came at her from the right, which she dealt with via a flaming kick up its jaw to break apart its skull. A third was decapitated with a slice of her sword while a fourth was grabbed by its face and burnt alive by a burst of flame. She even dug her sword into the ground and spun around to generate a ring of fire to burn all the Nosferaltus that tried to come at her from all sides once more. But that's when Blaze looked up to see over a dozen more circling around her like vultures before barreling down. With a sigh, Blaze positioned herself to take the fight to them in the air as she readied Levadian. I have faced worse odds. Just then, a blue tornado appeared, with Blaze being in the middle as she looked in surprise to see all the Nosferaltus in the area being swept up in the bright blue whirlwind. And that surprise turned into a smile as she already knew who that was. Light it up, Blaze. Without a second thought, Blaze spun herself around, her hands held outward to send waves of fire to mix with the blue wind, which quickly spread them all out and upwards into the tornado, burning all the Nosferaltus that were sucked in right before it all exploded, ending all of them in one swoop. Sorry I'm late. Sonic appeared in front of her, but she smiled with assurance. Your help is still most welcome, my friend. Blaze replied. Can I assume the others are here too? What do you think? Sonic smirked. The Chaotix struggled against the individual sea phylongs that they faced, with Vector grabbing one by its mouth to hold its jaw closed with his arms as he dug his feet in, trying to keep it pinned to the ground. Espio leapt from ruined building to ruined building, avoiding all the lightning blasts the second sea phylong shot at him from the air, and despite trying to retaliate with waves of fire and wind from Inferno and Cyclone, the flying sea-based Grimm was too tough and too quick for these attacks. Charmy was still being chased by the third even higher into the air, trying his best to avoid the snaps of its jaws and blasts of lightning while trying to slash at its face as best as he could with his armored stinger. Come on. Go down you lousy. Vector continued to wrestle against the sea phylong as it stared him down with its glowing eyes. That is until a might yell was heard from above and Knuckles came down, both Galatine blades held upwards before slicing with all his strength, breaking through its armor and cutting the beast's head clean off with one mighty strike. Vector stumbled backwards in surprise, only to see the gloved hand of Knuckles being offered to him by the smirking Echidna. Nobody likes a show-off. Vector grinned as he accepted Knuckles' hand. I'll help Charmy, you go get Espio. Knuckles said. Got it. Vector nodded as he ran in one direction while Knuckles leapt and glided upwards. Espio stood his ground as he brought Cyclone and Inferno together to send a flaming tornado up to intercept the next lightning blast from the sea phylong he was fighting, creating an explosion in a dust cloud that Espio took advantage of to turn invisible and dash away. The sea phylong scanned the area for any sight of its prey, only to feel a yank on its tail as something strong pulled it down to slam it onto its belly, all thanks to Vector. With the Grimm disoriented, Vector drew his battle axe and threw it at the left wing joint, severing the whole wing off before running on the ground towards the remaining right wing, which he grabbed and bit off at the joint with his jaws. Espio. Finish it. Vector called to his invisible teammate. Understood. Espio appeared in the sea phylong's face, turning visible again as he thrusted both his daggers into its eyes before firing their respective elements, which caused its whole face to explode in a fiery vortex. Come on. You can't catch me. Charmy blew raspberries at the lost sea phylong that tried to bite at him, and when Charmy flew away, he looked in surprise to see Knuckles strike at its underbelly, gliding and driving one Galatine blade into its side to stick himself there, while also pounding with his free hand to break off more of its armor. Knuckles. Go for the wings, Charmy. He shouted. On it. Charmy flew forward, thrusting his armored stinger at the right wing joint, breaking it off and causing the sea phylong to cry out as it fell from the sky with Knuckles still holding on. It landed with a loud thud on the ground, shaking up the area. Wanting to make sure it stayed down, Knuckles ran straight for its face and delivered a mighty uppercut to shatter its whole skull, ending the Grim for good. Knuckles. Charmy flew to him with a hug. I'm so happy to see you here. The red echidna chuckled as he ruffled the little bee's head. Yeah, you too. Knuckles. Espio and Vector regrouped with him. Most of this area has been evacuated, but now there's a large gathering of survivors westward and they're all more than a little terrified. Which will draw the Grim right to them. Knuckles understood. We got an evac plan all set, we just need to hold the line at this point. Vector said. Then let's get going, Knuckles said as he and the Chaotix made their way westward. Silver stood by himself in the decimated forest. Not too far behind him were all the survivors he and his friends could rescue, and in front of him was a group of Nosferaltus that hovered in the sky. He looked with a serious expression as he hooked his shield to his arm. Come on, Silver, you're the only thing standing between all these people and certain death. He said to himself so seriously. Hold the line as long as you can, he looked at the snarling Grim. Bring it on, you monsters. He challenged. The Nosferaltus all snarled as they flew straight at him, but before he could make a move to fight back. A single hammer was thrown from the side, spinning through the air as it smashed through the front line of Nosferaltus before landing on the ground, the pole sticking out. The owner of said hammer leapt up to land her feet onto the head of one of the vampire-like Grim, getting all their attention as they saw her reach for the pole of her hammer. As they attempted to swarm her, they found themselves stuck and caught in Silver's telekinetic grip, leaving them open for Amy to yank her Pico free and give multiple rapid swings to smash all of the Grim in front of her. When it was all said and done, Amy held her hammer over her shoulder as she gave her friend a smile. Don't be so melodramatic, Silver. No need to make a final stand yet. Oh, Amy, Silver breathed in relief. Am I glad to see you. There's a whole bunch of people on the mountain behind me that need all the help they can get. Don't worry, we can take care of them, Amy assured as the two went to provide cover and protection for the survivors. In the air, Penny and Tails had already taken care of a great many Nosferaltus and yet, there still seemed to be more incoming. There's no end to these things, Tails said in exhaustion within the X-Tornado's cockpit. We still need to hold out. We have to get to that ship, Penny stated. Before they could engage with all the Nosferaltus in front of them, something else flew in between them, a blur of black and yellow, which immediately smashed through several Superman-style with his metallic fists pointed forward. General, Tails exclaimed with relief with Penny looking in surprise. Targets, creatures of Grim, identified. General observed the Nosferaltus that were now drawn to him. Commencing purge. He fired a trio of missiles from his chest to blow away those in the front before engaging in close combat with the ones that survived, smashing through their skulls and chests with punches and kicks, quickly and easily. That was the last of the pack in the sky. General. Tails got his attention as the robot hovered to him and Penny. Tails. He nodded in acknowledgement before observing the android. Observation, you are an android and yet your design eludes me. Salutations. My name is Penny and I am a friend of Sonic's. Penny saluted. Can I assume you are a friend, as well? Affirmative. Designation, General. He gave a thumbs up. General, we have a plan to save everyone. Tails gestured upwards to the hovering Atlesian flagship. That ship is being remote controlled by the bad guys who orchestrated this whole mess. There's a virus on board. But with your ability to merge and control machines, I should be able to purge the virus and seize control of the vessel. General realized. It will serve as a means to evacuate the survivors. Right. Tails confirmed. Your plan has strong odds of succeeding. I shall lend my aid. General said. We will provide you cover. Let us go, new friend. Penny declared as the three of them flew straight towards the ship with the skies being momentarily cleared. Gira grabbed one Nosferaltu by its arm and ripped it off with his superior strength before pouncing onto it to slash its face off with his claws. A second flew at him from behind to bite his shoulder, but he just jumped up and slammed his back to the ground to squish the Nosferaltu and shake it off before throwing his elbows down to finish it off. A third tried to get at him while he was down, but Gira grabbed it by its neck and ripped its head right off its body. Sun sent 2 of his clones forward to grab and tackle 2 Nosferaltus to the ground before charging in to engage a third, throwing RWBY Bang and Jingu Bang all across its body for rapid shotgun shots to destroy it. A fourth tried to come at him from behind, but Ilya lunged lightning lash into its back and sliced upwards to cut it in half before firing shots at a fifth incoming to shock and disorient it before rushing forward to slice its head off. These things just won't stop coming. Sun panted. Nosferaltus aren't tough on their own, but they always attack in swarms, Ilya panted too. A certain scream caught their attention as they looked in horror to see Callie being pinned to the ground by a Nosferaltu, which spread her arms out and pinned them, exposing her neck as 2 more hovered above it. Callie. Gira tried to rush as fast as he could, with Sun and Ilya right behind him. The woman looked in terror as the vampire-like Grim attempted to bite her neck, only for a blade to strike the side of its head before it combusted and exploded, much to Callie's shock. Get away from her. Sienna Khan leapt over Callie, snapping Cerberus whip at the feet of one hovering Nosferaltu to slam it to the ground before she stomped onto its neck to crush it. The second tried to come at her from behind, but Sienna slashed Cerberus whip upwards to bisect the creature easily enough. 3 more Nosferaltus descended from the sky to try and overwhelm Sienna, only to be ensnared by a certain elongated tail before being slammed onto the ground. One Grim was crushed underneath the rest before the other 2 were pulled to the owner of the tail, who flung her foot out to shatter the skull of one before using a clothesline move onto the neck on the other to smash it to the ground. Stay down, you vampire knockoffs. Tangle smirked as she pointed to the disintegrating Grim. Sienna quickly came to Callie and offered her a hand. Callie, are you okay? Only to be surprised as the older woman leapt to her with a hug. Sienna, thank you, she said shakily, but still relieved. Callie, her husband came to her, right before she embraced him and he held her close. Gira, Callie let herself feel her husband's warmth before he himself noticed Sienna. Thank you, Sienna. He nodded to her with a warm smile, to which she nodded back. She also noticed Ilya, and while she tried to look away in shame, she did catch a nod from her too, much to her emotional surprise. And who might you be? Gira asked the lemur who pulled her tail back. Tangle the lemur, nice to meet ya. She grinned. Hey, can I just say that is one wicked tail you got? Sun pointed to her. That's even cooler than mine. He showed his monkey tail. And that's a high hurdle to cross. Not as cool as that staff thing you got. Tangle pointed to him back. Think you can hit a girl up with a similar weapon? Sure thing. Sun smirked before looking to Sienna. Miss Boss Lady of the White Fang, huh? He came up to her, his smile fading with a questionable expression. I got some words to say to you, and they're not very nice. Perhaps that can wait until after we get our people out of this hellish nightmare. Sienna stated. Agreed. Gira said as he and Callie let go. Everyone in this area has been evacuated. We need to regroup and join them. What about Blake? She has to know, Callie said. I wouldn't worry. Tangle assured. She has a partner ready to back her up. This caused Sun to smirk knowingly, having a good idea who that was. RWBY threw an axe kick onto the head of one Nosferaltu to smash it completely, causing it to fall over before she was grabbed from behind and hauled up into the air by another. RWBY. Weiss was about to come to her aid, only to get swarmed by 3 Nosferaltus that all flew down onto her. Seal and Blake were quick to provide aid, shooting the Grim off with their respective weapons, but by the time she was helped to her feet, they could only look in horror as RWBY was pulled high up into the air. Let me go. She struggled in the grip of the vampire-like Grim, only to gasp as she saw 3 flying straight for her, ready to tear her to shreds. But she didn't notice a certain black-feathered bird coming at the trio from the side before it quickly transformed into Kiro Bronwyn, who yelled as he held Harbinger up high in its scythe form, and with one mighty slice, he cut apart all 3 of the Nosferaltus in one strike. RWBY's silver eyes went circular the moment she saw her uncle, especially so when he turned into a bird again and flew straight towards her and the Nosferaltu that held her in the air. He quickly changed back into his human form to shoot Harbinger and blast the Grim's head off, sending RWBY falling to the ground. And right into the arms of Yang, who vaulted herself into the air with shotgun blasts from Ember Celica and was able to catch her sister. Though they were still high up, Yang channeled her semblance as her hair glowed and her aura brightened. She positioned herself so that her back took the impact and spare RWBY the worst of the crash as they landed. RWBY pulled herself up first as she felt herself being released and looked to her recovering sister in surprise. Yang. Not even a second later, and Yang wrapped her arms around her younger half-sister. RWBY. She was already sobbing, holding RWBY as tightly as she could, afraid that she would disappear again if she let her go. All the worry and anguish she felt when RWBY vanished was poured out all at once now that she had her sister back in her arms. The sentiment was equally shared as RWBY buried her face into her older sister's shoulder and cried, beyond relieved to know that she was here again. Such a scene caused Weiss and Blake to smile emotionally, happy for not only their reunion, but happy to see Yang again. Even Seal gave a slight smile. They noticed Kiro land on the ground too, which was confusing and concerning to both Weiss and Blake. Last they heard, Kiro left after Yang told him to after a very brutal argument, though Blake did hear how Yang felt regretful over it. Maybe this was a sign of them trying to make amends. Kiro cautiously approached the sisters, wanting to see if RWBY was okay. But he stopped himself as he didn't want to interrupt her and Yang, not to mention he was uncertain if she wanted him near RWBY or not. But he did see RWBY's head lift to look at him. He gave a small smile and a wave, "Hey, kiddo." Before he realized it, RWBY used her semblance to escape Yang's grasp and slam into him, tackling Kiro back first to the ground as she latched onto him, sobbing loudly. "Uncle Kiro," she cried, "I've missed you so much." Kiro felt his heart quake and his own tears well up as he heard that. She missed him. A part of him dreaded that she was just as angry and upset with him as Yang was, but she actually missed him. He lifted himself up slightly, with RWBY still holding on and crying as he looked to see Yang, who only gave a nod, silently saying she wouldn't deny him this and he had every right to it. With a smile, he held RWBY as close as he could as well. "I missed you too." Yang. Blake ran to her first with a hug, followed by Weiss, and she wasted no time in hugging them both in response, happy to see them again, and to know that Weiss was alright as well. Seal simply stood by and watched with a smile. A familiar alien chipper also caught RWBY's attention as Rosa flew towards RWBY, cuddling against her face. Rosa, RWBY was beyond happy to see her beloved wisp friend again as well. The moment came to an end when all parties let go of each other, with Kiro helping to stand RWBY back up. "I'm so happy to see you again," she looked to him with tears in her eyes. "I know that we didn't exactly end things well at Mistral. That doesn't matter right now, RWBY." Kiro interrupted. "We can work that out later." "Right." RWBY nodded as she got serious. "We gotta get everyone out of here." "Yeah, and that includes you too," Kiro revealed, much to RWBY's shock. "What? And that's the plan." Blaze had given a brief explanation of their intent to evacuate the survivors of Menagerie. "Alright, and I'll help as soon as I can, but first I gotta get RWBY out of here," Sonic quickly said. "RWBY?" Blaze looked confused. "Tails says something's really wrong with her and this place isn't safe for her," Sonic quickly explained. "I can just use chaos control to get her out of here and then come right back. You don't have to explain anything to me," Blaze assured with a smile. "Do what you need to do to help your friend." "Thanks Blaze, appreciate that," Sonic smiled back. "Last I heard, RWBY went with Blake, Weiss, and Seal to the far east side of the settlement, so you'll likely find her there," Blaze said. "I'm going to do one last sweep of the area to make sure there is no one left before moving to protect the survivors." "Got it, see ya at the end of this," Sonic said as he and Blaze dashed off in opposite directions. Right on cue, Watts grinned, observing the change in events from Starline's windows via the warp topaz, which glowed on the platypus glove. "Why you want me to leave?" RWBY stuttered. "But, Menagerie, the people." "RWBY, you're not well," Kiro said. "Something's going on with you." "I don't know what you're talking about." RWBY tried to back away, only for Yang to put a firm hand on her shoulder from behind. "We heard from Penny and Tails that something's going on with your brain, like it's infected or something," the blonde revealed, which only caused RWBY's eyes to widen in surprise. "Wait, what?" Blake questioned in shock. "It happened after we escaped from Starline," Weiss explained. "Penny found some kind of abnormality affecting RWBY's central nervous system. And I don't think it's connected to what Starline did to us." Pete Penny, why would? RWBY honestly couldn't believe it. Why would she reveal that to them? Did that mean Sonic knows now too? RWBY, we need to get you away from here. Kiro said. No. RWBY protested, backing away and even shaking herself off of Yang. Look around you. All of you. People are dying. I can't just leave. RWBY, we can handle things. But if something is wrong with you. Her older sister tried. I'm fine, Yang. RWBY exclaimed, her anger only growing. No, RWBY. I don't think you are. Weiss stepped forward as well. We only just escaped from being experimented on. That last part caused all their friends to gasp somewhat. They were experimented on. That alone is cause for concern. I wasn't the only one. You were there too, Weiss. So was your family. RWBY argued. And where are they? Your mom and brother are both missing. Starline still has them. Don't you think I know that? Weiss exclaimed, her own fear and worry becoming evident. RWBY, we can find them. Blake stepped forward next. And we can handle things fine on our own from here. But if what they're saying is true and you're sick. It's nothing, and I'm not leaving your home to burn, Blake. RWBY interrupted. RWBY, this isn't just some common cold, something serious is going on with you. Kiro insisted. If you keep pushing yourself. This is what huntsmen do. You of all people should know that, Kiro. Would mom run away if you told her to? RWBY shouted, which only caused Kiro and Yang to both gasp, with even Weiss and Blake being caught off guard by that. Even Seal looked to RWBY questionably as her demeanor was completely different from when they first met and worked together at Beacon, and she doubted it was because of stress from their current situation. RWBY, Rosa approached her slowly. I really think you should. RWBY flashed the wisp a glare, which only caused her to yelp in fear before she dove behind Yang for cover, which only caused her friends more concern. And that's when Sonic had arrived on the scene, dashing forward and coming to a stop in front of the red-clad girl. RWBY. Man, am I glad to see. Did you tell them about me being sick or was that Penny? RWBY questioned as she looked to Sonic seriously, surprising and confusing not just the blue hedgehog. RWBY, what are you? They said that Tails and Penny told them that something was wrong with me. RWBY spoke bitterly, actually glaring at Sonic. I know you and Tails are thick as thieves, so they did call you first and tell you about this, and you told everyone. Or did they call everyone and tell them that? Sonic only became more confused, but gave his answer to RWBY regardless. Yeah, Tails called me first, only cause he and Penny are worried about you. Why is everyone so worried about me? RWBY exclaimed. I'm a huntress. I'm a fighter. I can handle. You're not a huntress, you're a dropout from Beacon. Sonic countered, getting serious. You're a kid who might have bitten off more than she can chew and that's fine. But you need to stop if you. I can't stop. I'm not allowed to stop. RWBY argued. Well you gotta. Sonic argued back, with their voices only rising and causing their surrounding friends to look more than a little concerned and confused. If you don't stop, you're gonna crash and burn. You're not some invincible superhero, RWBY. Oh, and what, you are? RWBY questioned spitefully. Well, I'm sorry that I can't go gold like you and wipe a continent clean of Grim. No one's asking that of you. Sonic stated. You're just a. Don't say I'm a kid. She shouted. Tails is younger than me and you let him ride with you. Because he's got a good head on his shoulders, and right now, you don't. He replied. You're not well, RWBY. You need to stop or you might get yourself killed. Shut up. RWBY shouted as loudly as she could. Everyone, Yang, Blake, Weiss, Kiro, Rosa, Seal, and even Sonic were rendered speechless by those two words. I don't get to stop. RWBY began, speaking to everyone around her. I don't get asked, are you okay? I don't ask for help. I am the help. I'm the one who keeps everyone together. I'm the leader of Team RWBY. I'm the daughter of Summer Rose, the greatest huntress who ever lived, and I'm probably the last person in all of Remnant who has silver eyes. The only people who can fight Salem. Why else is she so desperate to get me? I didn't ask for any for this, but I got it and I can't put it down. I'm not allowed to put it all down. I'm not a normal girl. I don't have normal knees. I'm supposed to be a huntress. The huntress. I can't stop when there are so many people around me dying, including people I care about. Why can't you all understand that? The whole area had become stunned silent, with the only noise being the smoldering flames and collapsing structures around them as they could all just stare at Ruby with blank and wide-eyed expressions, the girl herself taking a few deep breaths, clearly keeping a lot of this in. Never had any of them, even Yang and Kiro who knew her the longest as her own family, had seen her explode like that or say those kinds of words, and it rocked those two especially to their core. Sonic legit had no idea how to respond to all of that. Yeah, something was definitely wrong with Ruby. She needed to get out of here, but she made it clear that she wasn't willing to listen to reason right now. Sonic hated to do something like this, especially to a friend, but he didn't seem to have much choice. Sorry, Ruby. Sonic pulled out the blue Chaos Emerald, much to Ruby's shock, intending to use Chaos Control to get her away from here. But this isn't up for debate. Oh, I think not. Starline sneered. Just then, an orange portal appeared directly under Sonic, causing him to fall in with a yelp, much to everyone's clear shock. Ruby instinctively tried to reach for him, but was too little, too late. The portal quickly closed as she slid over and on her belly across the ground. Not even a second later, another orange portal opened underneath Kiro and he fell in as well. Kiro. Yang looked in shock, seeing that portal close behind him too. Ruby pushed herself up to see that her uncle was no longer there. But that's when she noticed she had the blue Chaos Emerald in her hand. Knuckles and the Chaotix had just entered the forest outside of Kuokuana, having made it past most of the burning trees. The mountain's not far from here, Espio said. Good. Once we get there, we can. Knuckles didn't get a chance to finish as an orange portal opened up at his feet in front of him, leading him to trip and fall in, much to the shock of the Chaotix as it closed soon after. What was that? Charmy exclaimed. Some sort of portal, Espio identified. Well, what do we do? Charmy questioned. We keep going, Vector stated, much to Charmy's surprise. We gotta get to that mountain where the survivors are holed up. What about Knuckles? Charmy argued as he flew up in front of his leader. He's our friend. We can't just leave him. Knuckles can handle himself and you know it, Charmy. All those Faunus on the mountain can't. Vector replied. He's right. Espio agreed. I know it's hard, but we have to protect those who can't protect themselves. Have faith that Knuckles will make it on his own. Fine, but I don't have to like it. Charmy accepted as they continued their sprint to the mountain. None of us do. Trust us. Vector growled, hating the idea of leaving his friend behind. At the same time, the Cyclone took the lead as it flew straight for the Atlesian flagship, avoiding all the laser fire along with Penny and Gemerald. Careful not to disarm it. Tails told everyone. We might still need those weapons. Understood. Gemerald acknowledged. However, a message popped up on Tails' dashboard, connecting to his scroll. Tails, it's Sonic. We need you on the far northeastern side of the island. A huge Grim is about to claw its way to the surface. We gotta take it down now. Tails looked seriously as he turned away from the ship and towards the desert past the mountain range. Tails, where are you going? Penny questioned. Sonic needs my help. He contacted them through the comms. Sorry, but I gotta go. Gemerald, you can take control of the ship on your own. Affirmative. Penny, we must continue. Gemerald told the android girl. Top priority, see to the evacuation of the people. Tails can manage himself. Despite wanting to help her friends, Penny knew Gemerald was right. So, with reluctance, she nodded. All right. They resumed their flight towards the airship. Follow me. What just happened? Where'd they go? Blake questioned. Portals, just like those used in Atlas, Seal said, looking towards Weiss who came to the same conclusion. Starline. But why? Why Sonic and Kiro? Why not try to take me and Ruby again? She wondered. Yang, while still shocked over the disappearance of her uncle and Sonic, was confident they could handle themselves. So, she and Rosa both looked to Ruby, who just found herself staring at the blue Chaos Emerald. Ruby, Yang shook her by the shoulder, snapping her out of it. What happened between you and that Starline guy? Why'd he even take you in the first place? I'm not sure. Ruby didn't seem quite in the right headspace to give an answer, something Yang and the others could easily take notice of. But before they could ponder it, Weiss felt her scroll vibrate and looked to the contact and saw Whitley's name on it. It's my brother. This got everyone's attention and even Ruby's as Weiss answered, showing a video call. But she soon gasped in horror as she saw not her younger brother, but the scared face of one Adam Taurus. "Sorry, your little brother can't come to the phone right now. But don't worry, he and mommy dearest are well taken care of." Adam. Blake marched in anger by Weiss, sighed with the rest of her friends beside her. "Your new friends, Blake." Adam recognized them all from their time at Beacon. "What do you say we settle some old scores? Meet me at your place if you want the schnees. Don't keep me waiting." He hung up. "That bastard." Young clenched her fists tightly. "Who was that?" Rosa asked. "A very bad person," Ruby said seriously as she looked to Weiss, who had a terrified expression on her face. "I would advise caution. This is clearly a trap," Seal said. "Of course it is," Blake said as she looked in the direction of her house. "But we're going anyway." Young saw Ruby walking forward. "Ruby, don't tell me to walk away from this," she interrupted. "I won't let him hurt Weiss' family." At this point, Young saw no way they could reason with Ruby. "All right, just don't go off by yourself. Stick close to us." "I can do that," Ruby accepted. "Rosa, you stick close to Ruby too," Young told the Wisp. "Okay." Rosa nodded. "I'll join you too," Seal offered. "You might need additional assistance." Ruby nodded before turning to her Faunus teammate. "Blake, lead the way." With that, Blake led her team in the direction of her house, leaving Ruby some time with her thoughts. "Not how I imagined Team RWBY coming back together. One would think Ruby would be overjoyed and filled with happiness at her beloved team being reunited. But now, all she could feel was apathy, a cold emptiness, like none of it even mattered, other than the pragmatic use of additional firepower. But it doesn't matter. We need to save Weiss' family, and that's what we're going to. Even if we have to kill Adam to do it," she thought as a dark look appeared in her eyes. Penny and Gemerl had successfully made it towards their target, flying in front of the Atlesian flagship as it continued to shoot at them, but they avoided all the laser blasts quickly enough before flying straight into the window of the bridge, smashing their way inside. "This terminal connects to the entire ship," Penny explained. "I believe the virus has been encoded into the mainframe. I can provide the access codes for you." "That will not be necessary." Gemerl placed his hands on the console of the ship as his optics and even the one in the middle of his forehead glowed brighter. A blue grid-like pattern spread across the console as Penny could only look in amazement. She was tracking Gemerl's coding and seeing it spread throughout the entire vessel almost like a virus on its own, but she detected no hostility from this. "Link established. Atlesian airship is now under my complete control," Gemerl announced. With that, all the weapons aboard the ship deactivated. Virus located within ship's mainframe. Connection to other Atlesian vessels and drones identified. Alert. Virus is attempting to seize control of my own software and artificial intelligence, he reported as his eyes briefly turned red. "Gemerl, can I help?" Penny requested. "Negative. Virus is too weak to corrupt me." The red glow in his eyes faded back to blue. "Virus coding has now been disabled and reprogrammed. Using established connection to other Atlesian vehicles and drones throughout Menagerie to gain control of them as well." Outside, whatever was left of the hacked Atlas machines, including a handful of dropships that weren't shot out of the sky, the paladins on the eastern side of the perimeter that Silver hadn't destroyed, and even the second airship that hung over the desert after awakening the Grim underneath stopped whatever they were doing as Gemerl's link reached them all via the reprogrammed virus. "Link established. All remaining Atlesian machines are now under my direct control," Gemerl reported. "Wonderful." Penny smiled. "You should return to the others," Gemerl suggested. "Help protect the evacuees. I will bring this ship to gather them as soon as I can. All other ships and drones will be used to deter any incoming Grim. Aside from the second flagship, there is little firepower at my disposal and not much I can do on my own." "I understand." Penny nodded as she hovered slightly off the ground. "I will see you soon, new friend." She flew back outside as fast as she could. "New friend," Gemerl repeated. "If I had a mouth, I would be smiling." "New objective established once current mission is complete," introduced Penny to Cream. "Resuming primary objective, delay the Grim while readying evacuation." All the land-based Grim, the Deathstalkers and Tygetus that had awakened from the recent bombardment had begun to climb their way up the mountains that separated the desert from Kuokuana and would soon make their way to the top. However, the airship that had once previously awakened them, now hovered directly over them as all its weapons activated once more and began to rain laser fire and bombs onto the Grim, creating multiple explosions and resulting landslides that blew away and smashed the Grim that attempted to climb up. At the same time, the remaining dropships were now being directed towards the nearby ocean, where they proceeded to shoot and drop bombs on the incoming sea-based Grim, notably Lamia's. They would soon be joined the remaining paladins who marched as close as they could to the water and opened fire as well. However, due to being so few left, the machines under General's control could only slow down the incoming Grim. Meanwhile, all the surviving faunas from Kuo Kuana, which was well in the hundreds, had found what shelter they can on the small mountain they were told to hide and find cover in, hiding within small caves and around the rocks, as high up as they could. And those protecting them included the Chaotix, Blaze, Silver, Amy, Tangle, Sienna, Elia, Sun, Gira, Kali, and the surviving Menagerie Guard. Silver and Charmy were the first to engage with any Nosferaltus that flew towards them, with Silver throwing out Galahad to cut any down and using his psychokinesis to catch any that his shield missed, holding them in the air to allow Charmy to fly through Stinger first. Any that somehow made it past them had to deal with Blaze and Espio, who sent what long-distance attacks they could to burn and blow away the oncoming Grim. And any that were lucky enough to miss that were smashed, shot, or cut to pieces by Amy, Sienna, Vector, Elia, Sun, Gira, and Kali with the Menagerie Guard or any armed faunas. We're in the home stretch, folks. Just a little longer. Vector encouraged as he cut one Nosferaltu in half with his axe. We have another swarm incoming. Blaze pointed up to a group of 10 Nosferaltus flying towards them. We'll deal with them. Charmy. Silver flew forward along with the young bee. Right. Fortunately, their aid was not needed as a series of swords were sent flying to slice and impale several of the Nosferaltus, drawing their attention to the incoming Penny, who flew in to finish off the survivors with masterful slices of floating array. Penny. Amy exclaimed happily as the android girl landed in front of her. General has control of the flagships and all remaining Atlas machines. Penny reported. He is on his way with transport and will be here soon. Great. Amy beamed. But where's Tails? Wasn't he with you? Penny shook her head. He received an emergency call from Sonic about needing his aid in the desert to deal with a possible Grim emergence. Wait, an emergency call? Vector came up in confusion. Did they say anything about Knuckles? No, why? Penny inquired. 'Cause the guy just vanished on us. Vector revealed, much to Penny and Amy's surprise. Some kind of portal snatched him up and closed before we could get him. And if Tails left, cause Sonic called. And where is the blue guy, anyway? I do not know, Penny said. I haven't been in contact with him since I heard of his arrival to Menagerie. A serious look formed on Vector's face, his detective's intuition telling him this wasn't a coincidence. Something ain't right. Wait, Vector, you said a portal pulled Knuckles away? Amy asked. Yeah, Vector replied, getting a feeling he won't like what she was implying. That sounds like what was used too. The pink hedgehog's eyes widened in shock. Where's RWBY? Team RWBY, plus Seal and Rosa, arrived at the entrance to Belladonna family home, only to gasp as they saw Willow and Whitley tied and hanging by their arms off the balcony on the upper floor, their mouths still taped shut, both of them with terrified expressions in their eyes. And standing at the railing above them, Wilt being held over his shoulder, was the smirking Adam. Who would have thought, I'd have more than half the Schnee family at my mercy? He smirked. Once I'm done here, I'll go for your oldest sibling and gut her too. I will end your bloodline if it's the last thing I do. They had nothing to do with what happened to you. Weiss shouted to him. Don't waste your breath, Weiss. This maniac is beyond all reason. Blake glared at him harsh. Not wrong, I guess. Adam shrugged nonchalantly. Yang scoffed. You admit you're a psycho now. I wouldn't say a psychopath, more like the apex predator. Adam corrected. Oh come on, we all know you're just a stooge for Eggman and Salem. RWBY rolled her eyes. You think you got anything on them? You really are deluded. Adam turned his attention to her. It's RWBY, right? I could say the same to you, riding the coattails of that blue rat. He then looked towards Yang. You're Raven Bronwyn's daughter, aren't you? What of it? Yang narrowed her eyes. She actually trained me, practically raised me, believe it or not. Adam revealed, which was a genuine surprise to the group with even Blake being caught off guard. But none were more surprised than Yang. What? It's true, even took the inspiration of the Grim mask from her. He explained. I used to respect her, pretty much the only human I could respect. She talked about strength and power, but she let it all go to waste, afraid of picking the wrong fights. She wanted to restrain me. Call her me. Just like Atlas does for all the Faunus. Call me a psycho all you want, say I don't care about my own people, but you can't deny what Atlas is doing to them. Well, if that's the case, Raven should have left you in that work camp where she found you. RWBY stated angrily, with her friends, and especially Yang and Rosa, blinking in surprise. Adam narrowed his gaze at her as the girl continued to speak vehemently. Some people probably call you an animal cause you're a Faunus, right? Well, they're wrong. You're no animal. You're a monster. You belong in a cage. And I'll be more than happy to throw you into one and get rid of the key. Someone's got a mouth on her. Adam growled. Salem might want you alive, but she didn't say it had to be one piece. So how about I cut out your tongue first while my friends break your legs? Wait, friends? Weiss questioned in surprise. Blake's ears perked up as she heard movement all around them. We got company. Stepping out from all directions of the foliage was Adam's devoted followers, and each one of them was specially armed. Bai had a water whip in her right hand, while her left arm was coated in a specialized gauntlet that allowed her to produce an electrical whip. Trifa revealed a metal chest plate that had 4 metallic spider legs extending out from her back. Corsac and Fennec both stood together with the former wielding a pair of red armored gauntlets that were equipped with flaming blades at the end, while the later had near-identical gauntlets that were white that had a whirlwind surrounding them. Yuma flew up into the air with his bat wings but also had a collar around his neck before giving a yell that emitted a high-frequency sonic attack that struck Team RWBY and their friends and sent them scattering around the yard. They've been specially armed, Seal stated as she picked herself up. Starline, RWBY growled, realizing that this was probably his handiwork too. Kill the Atlassian, Adam ordered, pointing to Seal. But the rest of Team RWBY. Cripple them, but don't kill them. I may need Ruby Rose alive, but I want the pleasure of gutting them, and the 2 shnees myself. He stomped on the rail, shaking it as well as Willow and Whitley in the process as they screamed under their gags, right before Adam leapt off the balcony, both his blood-red blades drawn. A few moments earlier, Sonic, Kiro, and Knuckles all stumbled out of separate portals, no longer finding themselves in Kuokuana, in the tropical environment of Menagerie's shores, but rather at the base of what seemed like a mountain further northeast, closer to the ocean on the other side of the island in the desert. Wah, Sonic. Knuckles was more than a little surprised to see him. Hey, Knux. Sonic greeted back as the 3 looked around at their newfound environment. Where the heck are we? Probably on the other side of the island, Kiro assumed with an annoyed scoff. But how? Sonic. Turning around in surprise, the trio spotted the cyclone flying in fast before coming to a stop above them. I got your message. I'm here. The blue hedgehog only blinked in confusion. What message? I didn't send one. Now it was Tails' turn to look confused. You said there was a massive Grim about to come out on this side of the island and called for help. We only just got here cause some stooge with portals zapped us here. Sonic stated before his eyes narrowed with a realization that he, Kiro, and Knuckles all came to. We've been played. Kiro glared just as a flash of orange appeared further up the slope of the mountain, as 2 individuals revealed themselves, standing on a ledge that put them at a literal higher elevation than all of them. Gentlemen, Starline greeted cockily with Watts standing by his side, the portal behind them closing. Friend of yours? Kiro questioned his allies, referring to the platypus that was anthropomorphic just like Sonic and his friends. Never seen him before, Knuckles replied. Well, I know that guy. Kiro looked to the human scientist. Arthur Watts. Dr. Watts. He corrected. I've earned that position and I would appreciate it if you weren't to dismiss it like that fool, Ironwood. Watts. Tails recalled hearing that name before, only to give a slight gasp. I remember you. You worked with Professor Polendina in Atlas. But you were reported to have died during the Paladin incident years ago. Sonic sighed. Let me guess, that whole thing was used to fake your death while you went underground and teamed up with Salem, right? He asked Watts specifically. A basic summation, but yes. Watts confirmed. Salem sends her regards, by the way. So who's your friend? Sonic looked to Starline next. Guessing by those portals, you're the one who grabbed Ruby and Mistral and Weiss and Penny and Atlas. Very astute. He bowed in introduction. I am Dr. Starline, and I am indeed the one behind your present concerns. Does that include hijacking an Atlas fleet to unleash a massacre? Knuckles growled with even Kiro narrowing his eyes. Aside from orchestrating this bloodbath, these two were undoubtedly the ones who kidnapped and experimented on RWBY. That thought alone made his blood boil as he clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles were turning white. That was more Salem's idea. Watts replied, "You've become such a symbol for the faunus that we had to strike a large enough blow to keep those animals in their place as our pawns. As for you, Sonic the Hedgehog, I wanted to meet you, experience you for myself." Starline said before laughing like a deranged fanboy. The blue blur. Hero across time and space. The only being alive to be able to stand up to the overwhelming might and brilliance of Dr. Eggman through sheer skill alone. He cackled as he clenched his gloved hand with the warped topaz. Can I measure up? Can I complete my objective with you in my way? Aside from Salem's goal to level Menagerie, everything about this encounter has been constructed to be the ultimate test of our abilities and willpower. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Kiro all looked to Starline with revulsion as he sounded more like a stalker and a psychotic fan than anything else right now. The fact he was willing to stage mass murder to get to this point made them even more furious and disgusted. Watts just looked more annoyed than anything. Too bad, Duck Boy. 'Cause I'm gonna cut you down right here. Kiro was about to draw Harbinger, only for an explosion to erupt at their feet, blasting him, Sonic, and Knuckles back. Wah, Tails, what are you doing? Knuckles questioned as they saw the cyclone hovering over them, its weapons primed at them. It's not me. Tails exclaimed in a panic as he saw multiple alerts appear all over the cockpit. The entire system was being overridden and remotely hacked as he appeared to lose control despite his attempts to correct it. Something's taken control of the cyclone. Gee, I wonder who that would be. Watts grinned, holding his own personal scroll as he pressed a certain button, causing the cockpit of the cyclone to open before Tails was ejected out, much to his friend's surprise. Though Tails quickly hovered in the sky to avoid being sent flying, he could only look in horror as his newly upgraded plane remotely flew to the ledge where Watts and Starline were on as the former stepped into the cockpit himself. Your design is childish in appearance and yet, still intriguing. Watts said, hope you don't mind that I remotely hacked into it during your attempt to rescue your friends back in Atlas. I'll be taking this vehicle for myself now. The cockpit closed as Watts took the controls and pressed the appropriate commands to transform the Cyclone into its X-Tornado battle mode once again. You didn't think I wouldn't learn from your little antivirus program at Beacon, did you, boy? Tails' eyes widened at that implication. That was you. You got some nerve, buddy. Nobody messes with my friend's plane and gets away with it. Sonic looked ready to charge in and fight Watts himself, only for an orange portal to open up in front of him. You have your own problems now, Sonic. Starline sneered. Someone else who has a score to settle with you. A red blur shot out of the portal and went straight up into the sky, taking Sonic with much to the further shock of Tails, Knuckles, and Kiro. Sonic felt a metallic grip around his neck as he was being carried through the air, looking right in front of him to see the cybernetic Cinder, whose face mask opened to reveal her look of ire and rage. You have no idea how long I've waited for this. Cinder growled as she continued to fly. Ah, you again? Sonic questioned in annoyance. I don't have time for your psychotic tantrums, Cinder. Make the time, rat. Cinder exclaimed as her eyes glowed a bright orange before flying straight down to smash Sonic into the ground. Sonic! Tails exclaimed as he was about to fly towards him, only to yelp as the X-Tornado appeared in front of him, blocking his way. You should worry about yourself, boy. Watts stated as the X-Tornado pulled back its right first construct to try and smash Tails, though the young fox flew out of the way to avoid the devastating strike. Hang on, Tails. We got your back. Knuckles and Kiro were about to rush to his aid, only for another orange portal to open in front of them as four figures leapt out. One went to Knuckles while the other three struck Kiro. The red echidna soon found himself pinned to the ground as he could only look up in surprise to see who it was that was holding him down. It can't be, Ix. It was true. The modified and cybernetic Ix, former leader of the Nocturnus clan, and former master of his dear friend Shade, was standing over him, holding Knuckles by his neck with one arm and forcing him to the ground. I found him on the verge of death, and near brain dead, in that little twilight cage after his defeat at yours and Sonic's hands. Starline explained. A few steroidal, cybernetic, and genetic enhancements later, along with some dust upgrades, and a complete total wipe of his mind, and he's become one of my core enforcers. Just as Sonic has his own counter with Metal Sonic, I've rebuilt Ix with the purpose of overpowering you, Knuckles. And as for you, Mr. Bronwyn. Kiro had pushed himself up to look in surprise as he was surrounded by 3 near-identical robots that all resembled Shadow the Hedgehog. Their bodies were a sleek silver as they had black eyes with fully red sensor-like pupils. And where the real Shadow would have red streaks in his fur, each of them had colored streaks of their own with each one being a different color. One was red like the original, one was yellow, and the other was blue. The hell? Kiro muttered. Shadow androids. Starline revealed. As the name implies, they were created to try and replicate the power of the ultimate life form. Though the good doctor was never able to construct a complete replication, they were just too good to let go to waste. Oh, and I also provided them with dust enhances of their own as well. Right as he said that, each of the colored streaks on the Shadow androids all began to glow. The one with red streaks was set ablaze, while the one with yellow streaks had electricity coming off it, and the one with blue streaks had ice and super-cooled winds form around its hands. I'm considering mass-producing this design to support the Eggman Empire's regime, but I need a proper field test first. Starline sneered to the glaring Kiro. I hope you don't mind. With that, the entire area became a violent battlefield as Cinder attacked Sonic, Tails was forced to evade the X-Tornado as it was now being controlled by Watts, Knuckles was pitted against Ix, and Kiro was being engaged against 3 dust-upgraded Shadow androids. All while Starline continued to stand where he stood and watched. But not before he got a good look at a watch-like device on his wrist and saw a digital timer, which only caused his smile to grow even more. In perfect timing too. Our main attraction will arrive soon. Meanwhile, deep under the ocean some distance away from Menagerie, laid a large, deep, dark trench that no sea creature would ever dare venture. A trench so large it may as well look like a canyon underwater, and so dark that it was impossible to anything beyond the pitch blackness, like a void that consumes any and all light and hope. And yet, that didn't stop a group of 24 robotic drones specifically designed for swimming and withstanding high water pressure from venturing into the trench. Despite all light vanishing the moment the drones entered the trench, their optics were equipped with night vision that allowed them to navigate with little issue. With all that in mind, it didn't take them long for the drones to find their target, laying flat on the bottom of the trench on the ocean floor. Its own pitch-black body blending in perfectly with the darkness, save for a few bone-like protrusions across various points on its body, as well as a thin red think-like extension on its back and the skull-like face that didn't seem to have its eyes glowing, indicating some sort of slumber. One by one, all the drones landed at various points on its back before drill injector-like machines emerged from each of their underbellies, revealing a bright green liquid substance, right before they were injected into the black body. Once the liquid flowed out and into the creature, bright green veins began to spread across its body before its form slowly grew even more than it already was. The green energy veins spread all the way to the skull-like face of the beast. To the point where its eyes shined a bright red briefly before it shifted to an ominous bright green. And this is the end of part 28 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't really leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.